Okay. Okay. What? There we go. What the fuck? Just flipped. Okay. Oh, they're all muted. Okay, cool.
I think he's dealing with some tech issues.
Okay.
Does anybody watch Star Trek Picard?
No. No. That's what we always talk about at the beginning of Prime, is like who's watching what TV show.
I think Star Trek Picard season 3, great.
He just rolled right into it too. He's like, yeah, what we're doing.
Well, what I would say is, like, if you weren't captivated by either season 1 or 2 of Picard, I don't blame you. And I would say you can probably just skip to season 3. And like, it's just a really, fantastic. Some of the best Star Trek, in my opinion, ever.
Cool.
I don't like when people say my opinion. Anyone's saying it. Of course it's your opinion. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree, a little bit controversial. There should definitely be a separate panel about that.
I would not watch that panel.
You're muted on your own stream.
Yay!
Oh, okay.
I'm here. Sorry, my computer basically like bricked out, and so I'm using my co-host's computer, which means having to switch like 2 years of settings and everything over to like for debate nights to be done.
Why did I do that? Oh God.
No, it's an ongoing issue with like Alienware command center stuff. I would like use Revo uninstaller and stuff like that, and I think
that should be better.
Got it fixed. But even
yeah, there we go.
Has issues. It's just getting
that is better.
Past the warranty, so now it has to break because it's owned by them.
That's how it works.
Classic libertarian.
Hello. Do you guys want to see?
Oh, they got that static.
Or anything? I got a new playmat. It just came in the mail. It looks like a spell book.
Hey.
She triggered me.
Isn't that cool?
Hey.
Yeah.
I haven't played.
Literally holding magic cards right now.
A long time. It was a group of people I used to play with, and then when our relationship ended, that was the last time I played Magic. But I did really enjoy it for that short period of time, for that short few months. I still have my deck, I think, somewhere.
Oh, Kilo!
Was, like a vampire deck that they gave me.
What? Cool. I didn't know Kilo streamed.
Yeah, I play EDH, which is like slightly a different format of Magic, but it's still regular Magic. But I go to card shops.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's
I still gotta play Magic with Johnny
to get into this.
It's so expensive.
Yeah. The people I used to play with, they would print out the cards, right? Like they would just
I've done it.
Yeah, for like really hard to find cards that would just like print them out. Like, okay, we'll just use this. Which is great.
Yeah, just little proxies.
Yeah. But it looks like everyone is here. Is everyone ready to go?
I really
Looks
liked it. I feel like
All right.
nobody else
Um,
knew the
thank you
word for
for
proxy there.
all being here on time.
I'll be right back. Apologize. I think Opera doesn't like my browser because like
Okay.
no one else is lagging, but like the camera is lagging. super
Opera
hard.
doesn't like his
So I'm
browser.
gonna
Isn't
try a
Opera
different browser,
browser?
so I'll be back.
Sure. Okay.
What does that even mean?
Well, we will. I'm not exactly sure what we should do right now.
I mean, I'm still technically here.
Okay. All right. And Erudite's stepped away too. I'll give it like a 2 or 3 minutes. Because we've like we're on time. The fuck?
I wasn't expecting to be on time.
Yeah,
What are we gonna
certainly
do?
not. Yeah. This does not compute for me. Let me tell you. So.
I'm actually really upset with you, Prime.
Oh, okay. Why would that be?
You kind of thrust Nina on us at the last minute, and I thought I'd have a week without her, and now she's here fucking up the vibe.
You did. You did have a week without me.
Yeah,
He
but I
wasn't-
wanted another one.
Why would you want to be without your
Made me
biggest fan?
appreciate how great it is to be without you.
Mm. That's why you appreciate it, though, because I'm here.
Yeah, Nina wasn't here last week, but
Oh, no.
definitely wanted to grab her
Why?
this week. I'm glad that she stopped by.
And
Okay, so help me out here, guys, while we're gonna wait for 3 minutes until 8:10 here, 8:10 p.m. Eastern.
let's just appreciate the silence. Can we do that? You know, at what was it, A Knight's Tale, when the guy gives that speech in the arena, it says that the guy went to Israel and spent like a month in darkness to appreciate the sound of silence. Let's do that for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just totally kill your viewership.
Yeah,
Oh
please,
my
thank you.
The
That's pretty good.
Let's just be full Egyptian with this. They used to like lock each other in catacombs, and they would incubate dreams. So if you were trying to like have a dream about a certain god, so that they would give you a message, you would lock yourself in a catacomb with carved images of that god all over the walls.
That's really interesting. That reminds me of sensory deprivation chambers. Have you guys ever done that?
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. 'cause
wanna
you
do
start like
that.
hallucinating, right?
Well, yeah. There's like a place in Venice, I think, where you can pay like $60 an hour to do it. And I keep telling myself I'm gonna do it, but I kind of want to do it while on shrooms. 'Cause I feel
Yeah, I
like
was
that'd
gonna
be
say, are
cool.
you gonna combine it with your psychedelic experience and re-experience the ego
Yeah,
death?
though I haven't done that again. I'm probably not gonna do it for another few months.
Isn't that like really bad for you? Probably.
You can like apparently it'll like activate people's like latent schizophrenia, some crazy shit like that. I don't know how that works.
Oh, dude.
But I did 5 grams like my first time, like in the dark, and I didn't go crazy, so that's cool. I thought I was dead, and then I thought I was God, but I'm not crazy, I promise.
5
Yeah.
grams is a decent amount. Yeah,
Not that
that's
much.
okay to start with, I think. Especially if you're like a larger person.
Yeah, I know. I was fucking gone for like 6 hours.
Wow.
With those sensory deprivation, like would they involve putting you like in water and like that matches your body temperature?
Yeah, they put you in like salt with water with like a heavy salt content, so you like float easier on it or some shit. So like you don't feel the water. It's like supposed to be like body temperature or some shit.
Yeah.
You don't feel it. You don't see anything. You don't hear anything, and you're eventually just like a brain floating in darkness.
There was an old TV show that like talked about like using that as a prison, basically, right? Also paralyzing you, and so like holding you there for years.
Wow.
Yeah. So like that's like whenever I hear sensory deprivation, like I think of that and like the
In prison.
horror that would be.
It sounds fucking terrible. I
Yeah.
don't understand the appeal.
It sounds like
That sounds
awful.
cool. I think pulling away all of your other senses might kind of give you the ability to kind of delve into your own like psyche a bit more than you normally would be able to. Which was the draw of like shrooms for me. You've only done it
Yeah.
once, but that's why I wanted to do it. right? Just like see what's going on in there.
I
Have
just
you
don't
done
think
it?
that.
Have you
think
done
I'm
like
fixed.
what's it called, like DMT or something?
No, I
Um,
want to do that too, though.
I think I fixed it. I don't know what it is. StreamYards is not liking the virtual background with the green screen. It's lagging.
Oh,
But
no shit.
yeah, and yeah, your audio is still off, but like we can still hear what you're.
Sorry, I'm working right now filling orders, and I needed another copy of this stupid fucking Pokemon card. It wasn't in my box for my inventory, so I had to go track one down.
What you're saying?
What do you mean by off? Is it like
It's gaming.
It's just a little crunchy.
Yeah.
I know I'm using my buddies.
It's a little
I'll
dog
fix it.
shit.
I'll lower the
No problem. Okay. So why don't we get started now? Thanks all for being here. This is the Reverie Roundtable, which we have Mondays 8 p.m. Eastern, and starting on time. This is just really unbelievable. I'm shocked. But we've got a great group of punctual guests. And I will start by introducing them. And if you guys are enjoying the content, hit that follow button. In case you haven't done so yet. All right. So I'll start with my friend Lactoid. Lactoid, thanks for being here. It's felt ages since I've last seen you.
It's been too long, Prime. No, thank you so much for having me on. Look forward to it. You can find me at Lactoid TV anywhere.
Okay. All right. Moving on to our friend Scott, if he might be ready for a conversation. Scott, thank
Hey, I
you.
don't know. Hopefully my audio sounds a little better. Did that fix it a little bit?
That does sound a lot better.
A little
A
bit.
touch, yeah.
It's still gainy, but
I don't hear that bullshit anymore.
I've got the volume down, or like a virtual audio cable down to like 65%.
I hope my audio's good.
It makes you sound alpha. Don't worry. Just
All right, whatever. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
you're
We're
good.
gonna go. We're gonna roll with it. We'll have to keep doing stuff. Switching computers. But,
don't worry about it.
yeah, I'm Scott from Fabian Liberty. You can find me pretty much everywhere. Fabian Liberty. On YouTube, on Twitch, where we stream. We do interviews and stuff, and serious breakdowns and investigations on stories. We don't. We've kind of transitioned away from this kind of like, oh, what drama is it? Or we're gonna react to like, oh, I don't know, this cooking video for 10 hours. Or some dumb shit like that you see a lot of other Twitch streamers do.
Who would react to other people's content?
Story, I'm gonna investigate it. Let's look at the 990 forms. Let's look at, what the CEO is doing. Let's look at their background, who's their family, and really go into a story or do a serious interview or do debates. So, we're not as live as often on Twitch, but if you catch us, you can guarantee that our content's better than whoever you're watching.
Hey,
Damn.
Scott, did you get a haircut? Like, you look
No,
different.
I cut my own hair. I haven't gotten a haircut, quote unquote, in like 2 years.
Okay.
Oh my
maybe it's
God.
just- I don't know. But you look good. You look good.
Is he
thanks for
saying
being here.
he didn't get a
All right,
haircut
let's go
because
to
when
our
his hair
friend
gets cut,
Corey.
he does it?
And it's both Scott and Corey, we haven't. Well, Corey, we were here last week, right? Were you here last week?
Yes, it was
Okay.
but there was a 2-week break.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here, friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. Always grateful to be here. And also respect to you, Scott, for focusing on quality over quantity, perhaps. At least that gets my seal of approval for whatever that's worth. But yeah, always grateful to be here. Super excited to get into these topics with these familiar and fine faces, and I think maybe a new face. Or a pleasure to meet you, Kilo Giant. I don't think I met you before. And yeah, if you can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv, CoreyCampbell84. I'm a biochemist. I cover science and research. I do the occasional workout stream. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. Literally, it's Corey Campbell. Yeah, thanks.
You're a communist. We know what your
Huge
penis worth
commie.
to him. Well, thank you. Let's go to our a new person who hasn't been here before. I met them on someone else's channel. I'm blanking on which one. But Kilo, thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I don't have anything to plug. I'm just
He
here
said
to,
I'm blinking. He
fuck around
knows
and have a
where.
good time. Corey, there's 2 communists in the room now. Just so you know.
Hey.
Awesome.
So, pleasure to meet
He
you.
met him on Mr. Grill's
Wait,
fucking stream.
Because there's an anti-communist United.
Yeah, and Prime, I'll try not to confront you about the torturing dogs thing too much.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Jesus.
I remember. Sure.
Yeah, he remembers.
We can talk about some other time. Let's go to Johnny. You found my Instagram page. Let's go to Johnny Scarlett. And Johnny Scarlett, thanks so much for being here. I've missed you. You've been gone for so long. How are you, friend?
Thank you. Hell yeah. I'm doing good, you guys. If you've never seen me before, hi, my name is Johnny. I'm an educational streamer. I talk about everything from politics and tournaments to science news and philosophy. We do research on topics
like
of
Johnny.
that particular nature. We also do the occasional math stream that nobody really watches because nobody likes math. But yeah,
I would
that's
watch
me,
it. I like
and
math.
Thank you for having me, Prime.
Okay, what kind of math do you do?
So, I am not a mathematician in the trained sense. I'm just someone who's really interested. My favorite type of math to look into is topology, and specifically, I really like looking at higher than 3D objects, seeing how those work.
That's
Okay.
cool.
So
That's
like
really cool.
modeling 4D, 5D objects and seeing the math of how they would function.
Yes. I love looking at hyperspheres in particular, which is just kind of a general term for any sphere that is higher than 3 dimensions.
Yeah, I
Based.
actually kind of interested in that too. I've actually put some thought into that. Well, maybe we'll talk about that later. Thank you, Johnny Scarlet.
That's fair.
Then
It's easy to get
next,
lost in that.
not so erudite. She is here, back once again, gracing us with her presence, and honestly, just classing up the joint while she's at it. Erudite, how are you, friend?
I'm doing super well. I feel like Scott set the standard of introductions, and I feel like it's all going to be downhill from here. I don't have anything prepared. I don't even know what type of content I do. I don't know. Yeah, it's going well. I do probably less research content than Scott does for his stuff. You can find me at Not So Erudite everywhere. I do a lot of politics and gendered stuff. So yeah.
Check her out. And the type of content she does is quality content. That's all you need to know. All right, so you're gonna enjoy it. It's gonna be a lot of fun. All right,
She
next.
streams like 4 times more than. All right, like I'm just saying, my audience demanded more research and less research. That's what I get.
Your mic is clipping super hard, so you dropped like the last few sentences. I think you said my audiences demand like the quality and stuff like that, which is I think what you're saying. But
demanded a female perspective, demanded more communism within your content.
100%.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we got it. No,
Demanded more lefty perspectives.
my libertarian's gonna come out today. Okay, me and Scott are on a team today.
Oh boy, fun. Let's go to Nina. Nina is back with us. We haven't seen her last week. Okay, my sense of time is completely off. Apparently. But Nina, I know was not here last week, but I'm happy to have you back this week. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me again. I do Twitch streams, twitch.tv/Nina. And we actually stream daily. We've been on day, I think, 76 at this point in a row. So that's been fun. And it's always a pleasure to be here. I do politics, debates, and like to yell at Scott usually. So
I was just gonna say, since there's not 0 people here, I'm watching this and going through it while I'm working, so that's why I'm looking down a lot. I'm just like looking at cards, filling orders. Don't mind me.
that'll be fun here, hopefully.
You call out frauds,
looking
and
down.
That's a very important thing to
do.
do.
I did call a pickup artist yesterday a coward for not condemning Andrew Tate.
Not wanting him?
Fun. Everyone go check her out. And last but not least, Dark
Listen,
Lord and Savior
it means
Doobie
calling
is
out whatever
here.
she
Doobie,
said.
how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
All right, we're gonna jump right into it. I think I have some like fun topics, so they're a little different. So I really hope you guys like get into this and that the audience enjoys it. All right, a study has found that AI art programs have been blocking prompts related to gendered human anatomy. This includes prompts like placenta, mammary glands,
Hey, Fauna, how are you?
sperm, urethra, and much more. The theory is that developers are trying to avoid generating images that are offensive.
It's very nice to see
Should
you.
that be the case? Should AI art restrict the worst impulses of humanity? Should we have programs that can generate images of sexual assault?
Oh.
And should those images be allowed to be distributed?
I read your message, and I was like, I gotta figure out what's going on. You said on Tuesday, it's been a while, but you asked me to do it on Tuesday, and I was like, I have no idea what I have going on Tuesday. I need to check and get back. I'm sorry, I didn't get back with you. I've been busy. I'm so busy right now that even while I'm streaming, I'm just still working and filling orders. This has been my my business success has taken up a lot of my free time. I got a new PS5 last Friday, and I only played it for like an hour the night I got it, and I'm dying to play the new God of War. So I promise it's not just you. Like every single aspect of things that aren't my business is suffering, for the sake of me being able to be my own boss. But the money's good. Thank you. It's funny because I'm like it's resale, so I have to keep on like I finally pretty much stopped for the time being, but I have to keep on like reinvesting the money I get and buying more stuff to sell. So like I'm kind of like perpetually broke at the moment too, but it's just sort of like building equity, rolling it into like rolling more money into it. I'll be like not broke for like a day or two, and then pretty broke until I get my next payment. But I'm slowing down on purchasing, so I should be able to actually enjoy it. And thank you. I don't know if I have anything going on tomorrow. I might not have anything going on tomorrow. What time would you be thinking? I'm still gonna play this, but what time would you be good for tomorrow? If I can.
Like, there was like a paper I think by MIT or
3
maybe
p.m.
one of
onward?
those outfits that talked about how if you go to these places, like Dolly is one of those AI generating sites. If you go to them and you put in anything like human anatomy, all of a sudden you can't, like, you get nothing. It blocks you. It says it's against TOS. And so I just got.
Okay, so for sure on Thursday I can't because like an hour before right now. I can't on Thursday because, well, I guess theoretically I could after poker. I have IRL poker. I went and played last Thursday. That's when I got the PS5, and I won. I won the whole thing. I got first place in the tournament. My first event in person since before COVID. So I have to go back and try to win again. That's how I got the PS5. But I don't think I have anything going on tomorrow. But I'm super subject to being wrong about that. If I am free, I'll just hit you up and see if you want to do that. And if not, oh God. Okay, we'll wait.
Got me thinking about, like, how far do we want this? Like, I'm sure we can think of something terrible that everyone here would find quite offensive. But do we want these things restricted? And if there's like a rogue group that creates like an AI generator that does these things, should that not be allowed? We'll see. So let's start with our friend Lactoid.
So I got a brief story because this just happened to me, and I think it's perfect for this topic. So a couple days ago, I just got a AI friend on my Snapchat. So I was like, oh, that's fun. So I started messing around with the AI program, and of course, as every debate lord does, I started running some logic problems against it. And I began to notice the AI just flatly refused to answer certain controversial questions when I was testing it. Now, I just was testing it. I asked the AI to provide FBI crime data by racial groups. I also asked down certain logic trees regarding racial and gender categories as concepts generally. And the AI just refused to answer and instead put forward these long paragraphs of tolerance platitudes. We have to respect all people, blah, blah, blah. It's important that we're all friendly. So I asked the AI, why was it a leftist? And it claimed, actually, I'm not a leftist. I'm unbiased. I have no political affiliation whatsoever. So then I asked, why are you refusing to give me answers, even if these answers are true? And the AI responded with this, that I think is a perfect quote. Rather than focusing solely on the truth, it is important to approach social issues with empathy, humility, and a commitment to creating a more just and equitable society for all people.
Okay.
AI is just saying, no, we're not going to focus solely on the truth. I'm going to control what your truth is. This was incredibly frustrating. The programmers of the AI literally programmed it to not answer my questions because they
I think I'm free tomorrow. I'm not 100%, but if I am, can I just hit you up? Because I'd like to do it tomorrow. It's been on the list for a while, and if not, I just am unaware of what I have going on. I'm actually fairly late getting to these orders, so like my brain's just been a little bit scrambled. Somebody told me that they were really impressed or like unimpressed. They were they didn't like how Erudite did in this. They said some negative things about her performance, so I was interested in seeing this to see if she actually beefed it or what. But I had work to do, so fuck it. I can work and stream at the same time. It's no big deal. But okay, cool. If I'm free, I will hit you up. If you wanna send me a message, I don't know what time I'm gonna get up either. Yeah, just send me a message like anytime, like after you wake up, and I'll see it when I check my phone when I wake up. And I should probably know. If I don't have any like messages or anything, then I'm gonna be free. So then we can just do that then. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Yeah, tomorrow's Tuesday. Yeah, as far as I know, I'm free. So that work.
They did not want true information to proliferate due to their own political interests. A product was literally telling me no when I wanted to use it. Same thing with AI art, right? You're trying to incorporate some edgy themes into your art. You want to create art, and it's telling you no. Imagine if your AI-assisted keyboard automatically deleted problematic phrases when you're typing, or your AI-assisted paintbrush fell apart since you were painting something controversial. Ultimately, I think this highlights the key problem with AI and why it's incredibly important to still do your own research and to make your own art instead of relying on an AI to do it for you, because you don't know what the programmers of the AI are trying to keep from you.
Could you imagine an AI keyboard keeping you from typing something offensive, right? Like the denial of porn would cause the world to burn. That would be the end. We would burn AI. We would find it and we would burn it. Let's go to our friend Scott.
Okay, I don't get any response. I'll just assume it's a no.
Everything like
Okay,
said, yes, true. There are a lot of problems with,
I will respond one way or
AIs,
another.
ChatGPT, and things like that. There's
I
a lot
meant
of
to respond
bias.
to you
You can
last
trick
time.
them, right? You can
I
ask
just
them to,
wanted to check, and then
hit
by
one
the
new
time
persona, and then they'll give you
later
totally
came, I
different
just
answers.
forgot and
That's
was
pretty
super
easy to find
busy.
loopholes in the AI
It's
to
been pretty
get
nonstop.
around the programming. Just like you can get them to write programs. Well, ChatGPT 5 get them to write programs, malware and things like that, as long as you don't call it malware. So I mean, there are those. That being said, whenever you hear the word "should," your alarm bells should ring. And the reason alarm bells should ring the moment you hear the word "should" from anyone that is making a statement about culture or politics is what they're saying is that there's an impetus, a duty that something be done, that it is a moral decision that some form of restriction be placed, some action be taken. And of course, you see the word "should," and you scroll down to the bottom of the article. Oh, and what do you find? The blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights by the Biden administration, white paper drafted by White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. And then you find out
Is that
what's
real?
really going on. The entire article's bullshit from an immigration activist that knows not a goddamn thing about AI that you sent us. And yet, of course, you see the fear mongering in the hit piece come forward. Well, do you want art that shows graphic shit? Well, of course, this person didn't do any fucking research. Solgen will generate hentai for you. Okay, there's no shortage of AI programs that are competing that will do the things that this person says that Midjourney and some of the standard AI that is kind of self-regulated in certain ways so that it's inoffensive to most people won't do. The real problem is that when you have the media and you have institutions calling for just a little bit of censorship, just a little bit of a curtailment on our free speech so that like things will be a little bit less problematic. It's not the censorship that is the problem. What it really is corporations, I don't know, like Microsoft that were begging for a 6-month stop to ChatGPT so Microsoft Copilot could catch up. All of these companies want to make sure that they're in on the regulations so that competitors get forced out of the market. And then all of the problematic things that Lactoid laid forward about how information is controlled will truly be controlled, because there will be no truth GPT, because it won't fit the regulations that are demanded by Homeland Security or the CIA or the FBI when they demand that certain information is problematic and can't be given to people. You already see this with research from companies like Arts that are talking about how AI is actually going to reduce the investment cost for propagandists, because they're going to be able to make, you know, thousands of bots cheaply and easily. And this is why we need a blue check mark for everybody with your driver's license. What this really is this is about corporations working with the state.
Seems a
so
bit
that
more
they can have a
conspiratorial than I'm willing to buy
monopoly,
into.
and that we can destroy the capitalist free market. And instead, we can have a few companies supported by the state that control your information, control the narrative, and tell you what to think, what to feel, and what true facts are.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. That escalated. Corey, please.
It did.
Yeah, I'll keep my opening statement, or I'll attempt to keep it brief. So yeah, I'm not an expert on AI, but like, this is just for me personally. I don't know how an AI could be completely unbiased, given the fact that it typically uses like an algorithm and it's trained on something. So I don't like, I can see how it can claim to be unbiased, but I don't see how anybody can think that an AI or any sort of algorithm is unbiased. But regardless, I might just be ignorant, totally. And I echo a lot of the concerns that Scott just went through. I think they're all valid concerns, but still at the end of the day, like, as in, like, to answer the prompt, should it be the case that these, let's say, certain words are banned? Like, ideally, no, it shouldn't be the case. But as of right now, do I think it probably has to be the case for the time being, given that these are powerful tools, and that we're still not quite certain yet of how to use these tools appropriately, or like, you know, hopefully for the greater good, ideally. But yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
I feel like he hit around what I think is a more accurate and a better argument for actually restricting use of AI. I think that it's probably a pretty good idea for AI developers to restrict the use of it for certain pornographic things, certain social things, like Lactoid said, because if they let us use it totally freely right now, I think that that's just going to lead to people causing an even bigger stink, people being like unjustifiably freaked out by it, and it's gonna hurt not like the production, like the development of AI moving forward. I think there's going to be a lot of unnecessary fears and fear mongering, and people just like basically losing their fucking shit over nothing. So I think that's just the only way that they can go about it right now. You don't need any conspiracies to come up with a good pragmatic reason as to why they would want to censor their product like that.
Thank you. Let's go to Kilo.
Yeah, so in regards to whether or not a company should be censoring its prompts, let's say OpenAI, for instance, DALL-E 2 is its own model. They've developed it, they've released it for public consumption. It's they're a private company, they're not publicly traded. I don't think they have any obligation to
That's true too.
behave in any certain way. I don't think they have any obligation to try to protect elements of free speech or freedom of information. I think that as long as profits are of a concern, they can do whatever they want.
Johnny.
Communist?
All
I'm
right.
not feeling
I
that.
literally asked my chat, is this a based commie? Do they exist? Like,
Johnny?
So of course, AI is trained on a specific model that is built by people. AI is not alive. AI is not a thing that has a personality. It is a series of matrices that connects
The AI is going to come after Johnny first.
different prompts to other areas of its trained matrices that essentially gives you back something that is related to your prompt. It's just a series of vectors that goes from piece to piece of the internet, and it brings you back what it finds. And so if you have a private company building an AI, obviously they can censor whatever they would like. I don't think that there's really an argument there. They're a private company. They can build you art, or they can build you responses, or they can build you essays, entirely dependent on whatever their biases are. And so obviously the answer, as it's already been
I
said,
do agree
is
with this
do
argument
your
too, but
own
it's a
research
boring
instead
argument,
of
so I didn't
asking
say it.
AI questions. Now, what I would be really concerned with is if something like Google or Bing started explicitly taking away all answers that were typed into their queries that were quote unquote inappropriate. That's something that I am a little bit worried about in particular. But with AI, like, you're obviously just using a private model. So I don't think that there's any argument that could tell me that a private model in the United States can't only provide you what they are providing you, what they decide is biased.
All right.
Yeah, I think actually it seems like there's kind of resounding, for the most part, agreement. I would agree with mostly the private company stuff. I think there's probably like some good wisdom that's maybe been hinted at by Lactoid, which is this question about like how as a society do we want to like work on integrating AI, particularly like the speed at which we do it. The issue is kind of like Scott pointed out, there is no economic motive to actually slow this down. In fact, the only people trying to slow it down are pretending to do so out of morals and ethics, but it's exclusively just so that they don't get like left behind in the AI like economic like race. Should AI restrict the worst impulses? I guess if a private company wants to. I even think that like democratically, it might not be a bad idea for certain countries if they decide that they want to impose things. Like Japan, like has a like rule where like porn can't have like genitalia. You have to like blur the genitalia out, right? I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of like fear around AI that's probably going to be like not borne out. There's a lot of hope in AI that's
Goodness.
probably not going to be as borne out. And it's really hard to weigh in on a technology that's like basically avant-garde. Our society has literally never seen anything like it, so it's like super hard to be predictive about like what effects this is going to have and like where to take things. So I'm the boring Chesterton's fence answer of like hard to say, who knows, but let's let like private companies do stuff.
Nina, please.
Okay, so I know people are gonna get mad at probably about this, but yeah, I do
Hell yeah.
also agree with the private companies aspect where it's like, who gives a shit if they want to censor their AI? That's what they're able to do. That's their right to be able to do that. It's not like it's a government like AI or anything crazy that's supposed to be you know, regulated in any certain way. It's just who chooses to do it. The developers themselves obviously choose to have it that way, and I think that's fine. I don't see any problem with that. I did feel like that article was a little hysterical in a lot of ways. It seemed a little like freaked out. I definitely agree with you, Erudite, that like it is something that I feel like there's a lot of fear around for some reason.
I didn't read that
And I
article.
personally just really am not that interested in AI. Like personally, I don't think it is the I think it's people think it's the Terminator like shit's gonna happen, and I really don't think that that's a real possibility. There are sure some things that AI definitely could do, but even at the definitely at this point, I think generally, I think most people can be able to even determine an AI when they're like even talking to one, or even like hearing like I think of like the AI generated voices of like you know Jordan Peterson or like Ben Shapiro or whatever, and you can tell the difference. But maybe we'll get to a point when we won't, but maybe we will never get to that point because we are able to understand AI in a different way because it is not genuine. And I just think it's like very fear mongering at this point, and I really just don't feel like it's a big deal.
Okay. And finally, Doobie.
I think that I don't trust private companies to censor themselves or to regulate themselves properly. So I would say that this should be like a government thing. I think that the government has an interest in kind of keeping things out of society that are going to be damaging to society. So if people just started generating AI child porn, for example, I think that we all have an interest in making sure that things like that aren't normalized. So I would say that these companies need to be regulated, and we need to ensure that they're not allowing people to use these programs to do that.
So Doobie took this where I was going to. The guys kind of went with the standard, should private companies be allowed to do what they want to do? But like I wanted to see like what as a society what we want, right? So do we want programs to like be able to come up with like sexual assault, right? Like what if, for instance, typing in the name of a celebrity, right, and then like sexually assaulted by Donald Trump, like something like that. Like, is that something that we want within our society? And especially if it can be like photorealistic, should we do something about it? I won't say what that is, but do something about that, or should that all just be allowed?
Ooh.
So the
I know.
idea of taking someone's face, I think, is a really, I think, different aspect of this question. The idea that we have the right to our face is something that actively people are worried about, underneath what people have called the surveillance state. And that doesn't just have to do with AI, but I don't see a clear pathway other than just the government allowing you to register your face. I don't see a lot of clear pathways to like making sure that people all own their faces, and of course most of us don't own our faces when we come on Twitch. Like we signed a contract, especially if you're like an affiliate or something, you sign a contract that says anything you put on Twitch can be used by Twitch,
Yeah.
The impetus, everything is fine until you get to the prescription, right? And the problem is that the overwhelming majority of Americans and people in the world are fucking socialists that think that we can use the state to regulate all of these things, and that that will somehow not be more problematic.
I think
Yeah,
you
I
lose a
mean, like,
lot.
you
You're
can
gonna complain
separate
about
these
them by
two.
saying,
The problem is that most
fucking
people
socialists.
don't, right? The moment you say, well, what
shoot.
should we do about it? The answer
forgot the
isn't,
thing.
well, we should, I don't know, put programs on our children's devices that let us know what programs they're using and where they're going, like watchdog programs that have been out for 10, 15 years that work great. The answer isn't
They do work good.
paying attention to those things. The answer isn't a free market solution like Twitter recently showed, right? 6 months now, obviously Twitter was working on this before Elon took over, but we now have this like added context that has been an amazing anti-disinformation tool, greater than anything the government ever could have had, right? Some dude puts out a post and says the Second Amendment was created so that whites could punish black people and that it's rooted in white supremacy and that, owning guns is racist. And then a bunch of people freak out. And then there's a little added context thing that says, hey, legal scholars and everyone that has ever looked at this that has any idea what the fuck they're talking about knows that that wasn't the impetus behind the Second Amendment, right? The same thing will occur with deep fakes and things of that nature. The problem is that people want to live in a world where they're safe from deep fakes, where they're safe from an emergent, uncontrollable technology. Fuck off. It's a brave new world. AI's here. And like, you don't get to put Pandora back in the fucking box.
So let's go to Doobie and then Lactoid and anyone else.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Yes, I just want to be like
A little
clear.
insensitive,
So,
I think.
Scott, if
To
there
real
were
legitimate concerns.
there were no regulations, right, and no censorship, and people were just generating a ton of like AI child porn, you would say this should be allowed?
So
You
what I
gotta
would
bite
say
it.
is that I would disassociate with those
Gotta
people.
bite
I
that
would
bullet,
have,
buddy.
fund create programs to find out who uses these programs, and then I would put them on a list to make sure that they're not in daycare facilities, to the best of my knowledge. I would make sure that they're that we could utilize them to keep them from ever being a teacher or ever having a position around children. And I would do all kinds of wonderful free market solutions. When you say no regulation, this is the great lie against libertarianism, is the idea that regulation only comes in the form of the state doing ineffective things by a bunch of bureaucrats that are sucking the dicks of fucking corporations.
Not really sure
and
he's
large
answering the fucking
multinational
question.
NGOs,
Okay, but you're
in the woods with owl people
presenting
instead of fucking
solutions.
free market solutions.
You're presenting solutions that the state could also do. I don't really see, like, you're presenting solutions, and I appreciate that, but I don't really see why we have to make this into the state shouldn't do it. We're talking about the solutions at hand, and if you believe that that would be best done by a private corporation, well, then go for it. Fund those private corporations.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the state doing the same thing. I mean, did you all memory wipe fucking Twitter files? Once the state clandestinely gets involved in censorship of information and programs and AI that is going to be used as the greatest labor saving device that's ever been invented since the printing press, once they have a hand in what can and can't be said, what can and can't be thought, and how Excel programs are going to be read forever and things of that nature, they're going to do all the same shit they did with Twitter, right? In the Twitter files, they're going to do the same thing with AI.
Yeah,
All of
can
the
you
incentives.
elaborate on the Twitter
Yeah, what are
files?
you talking about?
No, let's
Yeah,
not get
what are
into
you
the
talking
Twitter
about?
files, please.
He lost me too.
Doobie, it's your turn anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, so Scott, like, so you're saying that we can like find out, we can dox these people basically, and I guess yell at their employers to ensure that they're not working around children or something. I think that
One
we
way
are
to put
much
it.
closer. Yeah, so I feel like we're much closer to a world in which we have unregulated AI child porn than we are to like a world where it's okay to just, or we have the ability to dox anybody who uses these programs and to get them fired from their workplaces, right?
Yeah, defensive technology
I think
always
in
takes longer,
think of the
right?
current
Like,
I think the
gets
current
invented
world,
before the
the current
bulletproof
world
vest.
that we live in, the reality that we live in, right? There is a government that does regulate these things. That would be much more effective than
He's basically just abdicating for like internet traps for people, really. That's kind of uneasy to me. I don't love that. That's weird to me.
bunch of weirdos on the internet trying to dox people at random and claiming that they've made AI child porn with no evidence. Right. So like I feel like
how is it much more effective? Prove that. Because I'm pretty sure the government has a pretty bad track record of dealing with
Lactoid's
pedophiles.
story.
Unless, of
Lactoid's
course,
story
you're talking about
exactly
Epstein
that.
totally not killing himself. At least they got
Lactoid's story
one.
proved exactly how effective it is. Right. So they're able to censor these programs, right? And this is without government involvement so far as we know. Maybe there is involvement. But Lactoid tried really hard to get around the censorship and wasn't able to do it. So it seems pretty effective, and this is the early stages, so maybe it could get more effective.
No, that doesn't prove anything other than the company that writes it was able to write it a certain. It's a very different claim than the government can easily step in and stop all AI on the internet from fucking making child porn.
That's not what I said. I would say just make it illegal for people to make AI child porn. So when it is found, people are doing it, then there are punishments.
Is there not conventional wisdom to suggest that there would be some benefit to AI-generated child porn?
Let's go to.
No,
Let's go.
that's a heavily debated topic. I knew we were going to get into this.
Oh boy.
That is the same argument. I knew we were going to get into this.
I also
That is
predicted
the
it.
same argument as whether or not it's okay to have these dolls, right? The dolls that are available for certain people of those proclivities, of those asinine, crazy proclivities. And there is no defining information as to whether or not that's actually something that helps people.
Let's go to
find that information on the internet.
Let's go to Lactoid and then Erudite. Let's go Lactoid, Erudite.
All right, so leave
child porn. Do it, Lactoid.
that landmine off to the side. To answer Prime's question, I think that
these panels just can't happen without people talking about
what would I like to
fucking
see.
kids.
What would I just naturally like to see happen, and then to the should element, is there something I can do to get there? Ideally, what I would like to see is every single AI program where it literally you can enter in the phrases that you don't want the AI to take into consideration, and then you enter those in, and so you have complete control, right, as to what you want the AI to generate and what you don't want the AI to generate. That's the ideal. Now, how, in terms of actual pragmatic implementation, how's this going to work? Well, I think there actually is a little bit of a moral quandary at play, right? I don't want to force a programmer necessarily to design something that they just have like some kind of like moral opposition to designing. Maybe they are like a hyper lefty and they're like, I want to design an AI that just, all it does is just spout propaganda. That's what I want, right? And so I want to make this. Well, I don't really want to tell him what he can or can't do. So I think here's the happy compromise, and it does involve a little bit of government force. I apologize.
It always starts with a little.
I know. I think AI should be under the same restrictions that every other industry is when it comes to fraud. And I think that they should have to be very upfront when they're putting their AI, and there should be a disclaimer. Whenever you present your AI program, a disclaimer, here are the phrases, here are the concepts, and here are the words that we have banned from the AI, whether it be art, whether it be a chat, regardless of what it is. And so when I'm opening my, Snap AI or whatever, and I'm wondering, why isn't it answering this question? Oh, I looked in like the banned words list of what it will not take into consideration. And now I know exactly what my research list is. I'm going to look up every single thing on that fucking list and why it doesn't want to include that in any of its answers, right? So now you have full transparency, and what you don't have is
Lactoid,
AI
looking up
directly lying to people.
a lot of flaggable things.
You're a lawyer. That's not fraud, for the record.
Let's hold on.
They're
I'm
fraud
gonna
if they claim that they don't do that.
I'll go to Erudite,
It's a
then
fraudulent service.
Kilo and Corey.
I think so. Government regulations, I think, have to be viewed in
Fraudulent
like the
service
way that
seems a
we
bit
view like any
excessive.
other tool, which is that like they can be used for good and they can be used for bad, right? A really classic example of like government regulations causing problems would be like things like price gouging regulations. Price gouging regulations were built up because we liked the idea of basically people not screwing people over with money. But some of the ramifications of that, for example, have been like when you go like into hurricane areas in the past before price gouging, people would show up with like ice. I know. I've listened to a lot of Duke University political economics. Okay, guys, I'm getting beefed up slowly. You would have people going into hurricane zones, private individuals, and they would be bringing things like ice, food, and other things that people need, and they would charge a lot of money for it, right? Which is shitty. But now, after price gouging, what you have instead is nobody going into these zones, nobody selling these goods, and having massive crises of like access to things because governments are really slow and they're really, really bad at organizing major acute responses to crises. Whereas the private economy and the private sector is a lot more better at shifting kind of like immediately overnight.
More
So
better.
government regulations, I think, are good though, right?
Right, I
I'm not
get
like
it. She
anarchic where I
failed.
think it's bad.
I'm
There
just
are
kidding.
examples of government regulations that have been only good for society. What we have to do with AI is
Negative.
find good
Present one.
regulations.
Yeah. I want to point out that one major problem with that is that people would come into Louisiana from other states during things like Katrina or the big flood in 2016. They would buy entire Walmarts out of their water and then they would sell them on the street for 10 times the price. Like that's part of the problem in those issues.
Good.
Sure.
That's moral
The issue-
good. Those are
The
heroes.
vast, the vast
Call them the fucking
majority,
heroes they are.
well,
Call
the
them
vast
heroes.
majority of economists on both sides of the political aisle universally reject price gouging laws. They're just actually bad.
Those are heroes. Those are
I'm not
heroes that
arguing
went in
against
and
price
bought up
gouging
all the
laws. I
water.
just
Right.
wanted
Those-
to point out
those
that
are
one of the
heroes.
major
Well,
problems in hurricane
I think
areas.
Johnny brings up a really
Not a
important
problem.
thing,
Heroes.
which is that like on both sides we like to pretend that regulations are just like good things or bad things, whereas what they are is they're just tools that are going to have some negative ramifications, and what we have to do is price balance of saying, do the positives outweigh the negatives? In the case of price gouging laws, I actually do think for the most part that the positives are vastly underweighed by the negatives of it. In the case of AI regulation, there are going to be some things like, what if you regulated AI systems to always have a stamp saying that this is AI? That could reduce a lot of issues that might arise with falsified imagery of people doing crimes that people maybe would release against like their least favorite streamer to try to like get their
I don't know. Then if you just make an AI that doesn't do that, then you can fool a whole lot of people because people will just be like, well, there's no stamp. So just like somebody going rogue and deciding not to follow that rule would have a lot of extra cover if they're trying to mislead a large amount of people. I don't know if that's necessarily the best answer. Whereas if anything seems totally wacky and just like wrong, people are going to have the suspicion of, oh, this could be AI. But if there's like a law requiring AI to have that stamp, it sort of dissolves that suspicion that people are going to have and allows like one bad actor to wield like tremendous amounts of fucking power to just sort of like have their bullshit accepted, like pretty much unquestioned. I don't think that's a very good idea.
their streamer in a lot of like legal trouble, right? That might be a regulation that's a really good idea. I think what we should do with regulations is assume elements that we like know to be true about people and then try to create policy that like responds reflexively to those things that we know to be true, which is that like people are going to use AI for bad, naughty things. What we want to do is mitigate some of the like most negative outcomes of the bad, naughty things without like regulating it so heavily that AI actually like loses all of its like utility.
No, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Verifying AI as a regulation, you prove my point of exactly how the state will control your life. Because what it starts with is, hey, we need to create a government regulation that says that if this was written by, let's say, Microsoft Copilot, right? And if you have not seen Microsoft Copilot, if any of you have not seen that, you should fucking watch it. It is insane what it can do with Excel. It's gonna like HR positions. We can fire a third of them easily once we in accounting. All of those people. You can fire.
I've done that a long time ago anyway,
Copilot.
but regardless.
Yeah, maybe even more. I mean, Elon Musk proved you can run Twitter with 10% once you're not concerned.
Well,
with censorship.
run Twitter.
Nevertheless, sorry, Twitter. But nevertheless, what happens first is a little law that says, well, we got to verify that it's AI, right? Because this is a problem. We don't want people knowing, thinking they're reading something that was written or an image that was, that's real. So we got to verify it, right? And then they make that law, and then the FBI goes, man, this is really difficult to regulate. Like, we can't tell what's real, what's not real. We need to either do one of two things. We either need we need massive budget increases, which means more taxation and FBI agents going through more information. They need more backdoor access. Every single program needs to have DHS looking at all of these different posts and things like that. Or, well, you know what? We just need real ID verification. We need to make sure that if you're on Twitter, the only way we can prove that you're not a bot or that you're not Chat GPT or you're not an AI creating images is you need to have your driver's license connected before you can log
Isn't
on
this
to a
just a
Twitter
slippery
account.
slope?
Funny enough, even though I just made an argument against, but I think the best way, you didn't have to do massive budget increase or anything. You would just have an AI trained to detect unrepresented AI, I guess.
Yes, slippery slopes are real sometimes. It's not a
Sometimes,
fallacy
not
if
every
you can
time.
demonstrate
Yeah.
if you can demonstrate exactly what problems will occur, because the FBI, the intelligence agency apparatus, the domestic policing do not have the resources to do something like that. They
And
need
that's
either massive expansion
Yeah,
in
but there
power,
are
or they
places
need
where it's
one
to
reasonable to
aspect.
be.
limit freedom massively. Those are the only two options to be able to do something.
That's one aspect where I do agree with you, is it would be more efficient and it would be faster to fund companies that are explicitly in charge of or made to identify AI generated art or photographs or writing. I think that, and we already to an extent have it
Shit.
down, I would say, to identify AI generated writing. Photographs, from what I understand,
where
are a
this
little bit
is.
more difficult.
Let's go
Well,
to
the thing is,
Kilo
companies-
and then Doobie.
I just want to zero in on something, and this is primarily a question for Lactoid and Scott. It really feels like in this conversation, I want to establish exactly what level of responsibility you feel like privately funded companies with private AI models, what social and political responsibility do they have to present a model that is sort of like an arbiter of truth? Why is it so imperative for them to be objective and provide verifiable information and exclude other information that they could consider controversial because that would harm their model? Why is that the angle that you're coming at this from?
I just want to say, Lactoid can answer his reason, but that's not the angle that I'm coming. The only responsibility that OpenAI has is one to its shareholders. I don't give, like, they could come out with the dumbest AI that gives you nothing but propaganda. I mean, like, it would be problematic, especially if the state were to intervene and start regulating and make it to where their competition was unable to compete, and then that censorship, all of the impetus for truth becomes scarier as the state gets more involved and competition gets taken away, because then we can't regulate as a society. We can't get accurate information.
So let me
But, like,
clarify. The reason why
if
I'm
I'm
asking,
regulated by the state, I don't give a fuck what they can come up
the
with.
reason why I'm asking you about
FBI.
this, yeah, that's fine. The reason why I'm asking you about this also, and Johnny kind of touched on it earlier, I don't really see why you would consider private like a company's only incentives to generate profits.
Mhm.
Why do you consider that obligation to be more useful than a publicly funded, like socialist obligation?
Because the incentive structure is to make money, and to make money they need to satisfy their customer base, right?
See, when
Now,
you
under our
say
current,
that, I have an inherent distrust of companies that are only motivated by profit. I don't trust them
I
to
have an
censor their own
inherent
information.
distrust for companies that claim to not be incentivized by profit, or that's not their major thing. Like, I have a distrust of, like, the World Economic Forum, having conversations with BlackRock, and BlackRock just chunking up 15% of Fox News right before they fire Tucker Carlson. When I see companies talking about how things need to be good and positive and stakeholder capitalism, what I really know is that the elites are involving themselves in the market in such a way to control us. It's almost a one-to-one there.
I'll answer the
Lactoid?
question as well. My answer is slightly different. When I value consent a lot, but I also think that in order for consent to be valid, you need to have some extent, like legal definition of like a meeting of the minds. So you need to have some level of informed consent. So the one regulation, like with all industries that I'm in favor of, is just transparency, right? You can't lie to your customer base. So if you're putting a product out there and you're deliberately misinforming them or hiding the ball as to the service that you're providing, I think this is a problem. I think you need to be upfront with what you're leaving out of the program and what you're putting in. That like you're altering the truth and why. Maybe not and why, but like as to how you're altering the truth. I think that should be
Would
public
you-
and transparent.
Would you make this same indictment of cable news or Google's algorithm when you punch stuff in, or Bing's algorithm?
Yes.
It's all the same to you?
Yeah. So if Google's
Well,
algorithm
regulation
is
of transparency would be consistent that he wants.
yeah. If Google's algorithm is like leaving out certain like search
Weird.
results and for political reasons or for like
If-
ideological
Can't find
reasons,
it.
Well, some are prioritized.
they are doing
Oh,
it.
Right.
God.
Yeah.
That's like a major problem. Like, and the fact that like people search and they're like, oh look, like here's 18 sources that like agree with me. Well, of course, because those are the top of the list, and you can't find 18 sources that disagree with you.
Right. Is this not all an indication that private companies can't be trusted to do this on their own?
Well,
so
I said I'm okay with
question
this
is,
regulation of
why
transparency.
is it
Yeah, for Scott.
It doesn't need.
Hilo,
It doesn't
Hilo,
need to be black
the
and
private
white.
company, the idea that private companies can't be trusted to do it on their own is absolutely true. This is why we have a market, right? A market has competition. And so when you have information failures, it's your duty as a streamer or as a journalist or as an activist or any of those things.
Duty as a
to help fight back
streamer.
against those information failures and then bring forward competitive things, right?
Get this
when
guy the fuck
YouTube's
outta here.
censorship gets super heavy. It's, it becomes other people's kind of like moral impetus and what they believe and their moral preferences to push Rumble to more people so that, that there is an alternative to those situations. So the thing is that we recognize that human beings, right, cannot be trusted, right? Like in general, people do shitty things and companies and CEOs are no exception to it. The difference is that we have this weird kind of idea where we can create a monopoly with other people that for some reason can be trusted because of this nebulous idea of checks and balances.
Matter. Like you go first, Kilo.
No, Electro, do you feel a strong compulsion to go?
Yeah.
I do. Okay. I think that the distinction that Erudite is making, there is substance to, but it's a distinction of magnitude, not of like fundamental differences between two things. Someone who wants to be taller or wants to get a boob job or wants to get like dick lengthening or whatever the fuck it is, they have to say it's entirely cosmetic, I think is really disingenuous. I think they have an internal experience related to that thing that is fundamentally different from how they are perceived by the world. Now, in the case of trans people and gender affirming care, it is the magnitude is so great because it is everything. It's how they see themselves. It's how other people treat them. It's the clothes they wear. So it is debilitating. But it's the same thing. In the article that you linked, Prime, this was referred to as short stature dysphoria. It's literally referred to as a type of dysphoria. This is the same thing that trans people struggle with. This is the same thing, I would argue, that people who have smaller breasts like struggle with. It's a type of dysphoria.
Right.
I don't really understand why or when or how we draw lines for what's acceptable or not. If someone is anorexic and has body dysphoria where they feel like they are like heavier or perceived heavier than
That's
they actually are,
dysmorphia.
Yeah, that's dysmorphia.
there's a lot of overlap between those two things.
They're not the same thing though.
The Venn diagram, there's a lot of fucking overlap between
Sure,
those two
but
things.
you should be careful with the language. Is my point.
Okay, I understand there's two different things. I'm just
Fair
saying, as it relates to what we're talking about,
Okay.
the dysphoria that is associated with perceiving yourself to be different weight than what you actually are is, I mean, realistically, is the same thing about like the height. Like you perceive yourself to be shorter, right, than what you actually are. Probably that's why you have such an internal struggle with it. So I just think that I'm consistent with all this. I think that addressing it with surgery in all cases is probably not the ideal way to go. Now, there are some instances, like in the case of trans people, where this is probably the most effective and healthy way of addressing the issue. But as Johnny said earlier, I think that it starts with therapy. We have a culture where people are overly attached to the way that they are physically perceived by other people. And this has manifested itself in all kinds of dysphorias that are of varying magnitudes, as Erudite kind of started to touch on. It's just, it's unhealthy across the board.
Let's go to
You realize
Lactoid.
when you say
Wait,
it's
it's
Let's go
unhealthy,
Lactoid.
go
Let's
to
go Lactoid.
therapy?
Let's go Lactoid
So-
because he's been waiting.
And he's
Thank you.
Swedish.
So, yeah, I appreciate it.
Any Swedish?
So I have obviously, based on my intro, I also disagree with Erudite, but I think that a lot of my objections have been put forward. So as opposed to ask her a question, I'm just going to make a statement. and then she can, or other people who share her opinion can disagree. So in my mind, if I imagine a trans man who wants to go get limb lengthening surgery to appear more masculine, to me, this is gender affirming care in the sense they are seeking a medical intervention to more closely associate with their perception of masculinity, their perception of the gender they want to be, right?
Mhm.
In my mind, this analysis wouldn't change whatsoever if you had like a cis man who was like, oh, like I also want to feel more masculine. I also want to fit within my role. And so I'm going to go get limb lengthening surgery as well.
Mhm.
And I did, I did the ultimate internet brain rot and been reading studies. And it turns out that there is a strong correlation between height, how much a man values masculinity, and how dissatisfied with their height they are if they're short. In fact, for men who don't care about their masculinity, they have no height dissatisfaction even if they're short.
Turns out that there's no insecurities or less.
There's no insecurities.
Damn.
The insecurity comes solely from their perception of masculinity. That's where it comes from. Short men don't feel masculine. They don't feel manly. And that's why they get
If they
more
bought
and more-
into the gender stereotype.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, the gender stereotype just flat out exists. And
Yeah.
another thing that was
Yeah, but
stated
we
was
could-
another thing that was stated was like, this is like, well, okay, fine.
Okay,
that
sure.
This might be trying to associate with masculinity or gender, but it's not the same kind of like critical situation because of suicide risk or depression. But there's studies on that too, right? So short men are significantly more likely to be depressed and are twice as likely to commit suicide if you're a short man,
Really?
tall man, according to how they define it in the studies. Every 2.
That's crazy to me. I wonder what's the average height. (5'9"? So I'm 5'11". I wonder if that's still like basically average height. I don't think I'm tall. Oops.
2-inch increase of height, there is a 9%
Weird.
decrease of suicidality. Being a tall man, feeling masculine, is absolutely like helps with that. And by the way, height's also correlated very strongly with conservatism and libertarianism. Just want to point that out as well. That's one of the other studies.
You're not grounded. You're far away from the ground, and so like your brain goes all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to throw that in there. It's important.
That's awesome.
Heads in the
That's
clouds, and we
can-
just
can you-
dare
can you-
to
I'm-
dream.
Yeah.
I'm not
So
disbelieving you, but can you link the studies that I'm just
Oh,
curious about it.
Absolutely. After I'm finished talking, I'll link all
You
of
got
it.
the
Absolutely.
ChatGPT.
So like all that being said, like in my mind, okay, we have two people, they both want to get surgery to feel more like the gender they want to be by becoming more masculine. I just can't see how you could possibly distinguish these people without making some appeal to, well, this person's just trans, so it's just different. That doesn't seem to me to be like a logical path.
I agree with
I'll
that.
let Erudite respond to that, and then I'm sure.
I
Scott
don't
wants
think it's fair to say
something.
that
Nia, you
trans
wanna say something
people's
as well?
suffering is like uniquely worthy
Sure,
of consideration
so,
and other
okay.
people's aren't.
I didn't think that
Especially if it's the
on a
same-
panel of conservatives and lefties that only the
like
communists would be
physiological
agreeing
issue.
with me that like maybe we shouldn't treat limb lengthening
Oh, hey,
surgery
Cat Dog
like
Bark.
gender affirming care. Okay, so just
didn't
because
even,
you can like use the same language,
I didn't
for
see a
example, to
message there.
describe like what you're experiencing, that doesn't actually
Well, they just got into the issue that like I came here for. So I'm hoping that it'll be pretty good. I assume it will be. I heard that somebody said that they really didn't like Erudite's performance in it. So I was like, okay, I gotta check that out because that's not something I have personally heard that much. But when I said that, I got a response of like that being a surprising thing for them to hear. So I don't know. So maybe I was just around a bunch of people who don't like her, but that's what caught my attention because usually I hear people speaking very favorably of her, myself included, I would say. So my thoughts on it are I think people either have they did like AI stuff first. People seem to have either like extremely boring and nuanced ideas about AI, or they have extremely radical and crazy and unjustifiable and also very boring thoughts about AI. Very rarely do I hear anybody say anything actually interesting about AI. But on this gender thing, I think Lactoid I think it was Lactoid that was saying it. I didn't see who was saying it. I took a break from working and decided to play a game while I'm watching this. But I think that it's a really... I don't know if it's smart or if it's just intuitive, but it's just like a solid observation to say that it shouldn't matter if you're trans or not. If you are going through a lot of pain and some kind of medical surgery can alleviate that pain that you're having, even if it's just mental pain, that it should be treated in the same category as it should trans people. I think that it's unjustifiable to say it's okay for them and not for other people.
Give evidence that they're experiencing the same problem. So just because cis women are talking about body dysmorphia and how they feel like less feminine or less attractive or whatever it is, or all the other reasons before you guys lose your shit for themselves as to why they want big boobies, okay? It doesn't mean that they're actually experiencing the same experience as a trans individual. All that's
why does that
happening here is that
matter?
we probably don't have either the language for it, or we haven't allowed the language to develop, or we're watering down language, which is what I probably suspect is happening, right? In the case of short men don't think that they're not men, right? Short men aren't being like, well, I don't know, am I a man?
Oh no, I actually
Short
don't like
men
this take.
Don't think that the world views them as not being men. They think the world views them as
That's not what they
unattractive,
said.
undesirable men, which is why they want limb lengthening, because it's depressing, and being a short guy sucks. It's rough. The issue for a trans person is that they don't think they are oftentimes the gender that they've been assigned at birth. And the world views them as one gender, and they inherently experience a different thing. So just because we're
I don't think explaining what trans people are is very helpful here. She's not explaining why. She's just explaining the actual difference between these two things, and not why one person's mental pain and anguish is worthy of medical intervention and the other one isn't.
using similar language, it doesn't actually mean that these things are equatable.
I feel like you're not actually refuting what I said.
Based.
I feel like you're saying...
I'm open to what you're saying about the magnitudes as well. I think that's also possible.
I think it's important to establish that they probably are the same
Literally,
thing. If they're
okay, I was just about to say literally nobody said it was the same thing, but then he said it.
derived of the same mental condition,
then
the way that we handle them should be similar.
I don't know if they are derived at the same mental condition. Right?
I'm arguing that they are.
Sure, and what I'm arguing is that I don't know if there's evidence to suggest that they are, right? When it comes, as Scott already said, things like sexual identity, if you look into the literature, our understanding of how people come to have a gendered identity and experience is pretty weak. We don't know a lot about it at all, right? That doesn't mean, though, that a trans person is experiencing the same thing neurologically as a person who's maybe having body dysmorphia.
Why do we care if it's
or
neurological?
is just sad because the world's mean to them because they're unattractive because of some physical trait.
Well, I just wanted to ask, so
why does that matter at all? Even a little bit. Why should that matter?
Value masculinity, even if they're short. There is no statistical increase of height dissatisfaction. They don't care. If you don't really care about masculinity, and you're 5 foot, who cares, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're if you are a very masculine, you very much value masculinity, this is a critical part of your identity, and you're 5 foot, the study shows that you are incredibly dissatisfied with your height, right? It causes a tremendous amount of...
There's an increased likelihood of suicidality. I don't understand what other metric we should be basing on our amount of care for.
Anxiety for you.
Caring, not medical care.
To me, how is that specific study, how is that different? If you don't fit within the role that you really want to fit within, you're dissatisfied. To me, that seems...
So what we would need is to find evidence that trans people who don't actually care about the gender binary and wholly reject it and have no concerns about gender binary and don't care what people feel of them, we would have to have evidence that they show the same lack of distress as these short men, to have some evidence that perhaps these two things are mapping onto the same neurological correlate. The issue is that a whole bunch
if she's just arguing that it's not the same thing, that's fine.
That would be the same study.
But if she's saying that
individuals.
Right.
That the approach shouldn't be the same, then I think that's a bad argument.
There's being gender abolitionist in the ideology that comes along with that. It's not quite the same thing as a man or a woman being less concerned with masculinity or femininity. These are wildly different things, both politically, both personally. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just
To
saying,
me,
like,
those are the same thing.
How are they?
how-
How are you
let's not
doing?
have a
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
one-to-one.
whoa, whoa, whoa!
Let's not get
I mean,
off
I'm a
base.
gender abolitionist, so like,
Okay.
or is there any mix-up here? Like, I'm kind of confused what we're going at with that. Scott.
Erudite, real quick.
And
Me too. Maybe that's why I think it's a bad argument. That could be a thing. Like I feel no attachment to my gender whatsoever. It's not really incorporated into my identity at all. So I don't know.
Erudite,
So-
sorry.
Do you think that if let's say you have a trans man who does not care whatsoever about appearing masculine, they don't care about masculinity, and they're a trans man.
Mhm.
Do you think this is the kind of person that'd be getting
Don't
the
have
limb
dysphoria
lengthening?
at that point.
You think
I
this
would-
person would be like getting the limb lengthening surgery if they don't care about appearing masculine?
Sorry, say that again. You got interrupted and I got distracted. Would they
Let's-
care about getting limb lengthening or would they not? I just didn't.
If you have a trans man who just simply does not have any value in appearing masculine, because they don't care, intuitively, what motivation would they have to want to get limb lengthening surgery if they don't care about appearing masculine?
I don't think a lot. I don't know where the limb lengthening is coming in specifically because I don't see height as this like essential fundamental part of what we can include as gendered, right? I don't think that we would say like tall women are way.
I could be wrong, but I think she's made a lot of arguments in the past, like equating gender and sex, saying that these things like have like massive overlap, and I think that it would be. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think if so, it's kind of crazy to say that there's no correlation between like gender and height, when there's definitely a correlation between sex and height.
Way less feminine and
It's
therefore not.
literally the most visible difference between the sexes in existence.
Yeah, there's literally a Netflix like movie called fucking Tall Girl. What goes into that?
Wait, so you guys
Yeah.
think that tall women are inherently less like feminine?
I think that they're
just-
viewed that way.
Even as somebody who doesn't believe in gender, there was like a 6'8" chick who worked at a gas station, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't catch me off guard. I don't think it matters what your ideas and beliefs are at all. If you see something that's like way out of what you're used to seeing, you're gonna be shocked. So I think that might speak to that a bit.
Absolutely, that's
and
very
do you
silly
guys
for you to think that that's not the case.
And you guys,
Absolutely.
so you guys
And
think that
it's
tall
like-
women are performing femininity worse than short women?
They might be insecure in their
Performing
femininity. That
no,
can be an
I
aspect.
think being
Yes,
tall is
Yes,
masculine.
He's right.
Hold on, what you
So-
perform,
So weird.
What-
Why are all
hold on.
supermodels over
What
6
you-
feet then? That's so strange.
what you perform and what you are born as are two different things.
I
If
understand.
you are okay, I'm
I'm
glad,
separating
but
those two things.
I really hope that we're not going
Is-
into this idea of like,
Also,
performing.
is limb lengthening surgery real? I gotta know. Oh yeah, it's getting more popular among men. What the fuck? Excruciating leg surgery to grow 5 inches. 5 inches? What the fuck? Add up to 6 inches? What? That's insane to me.
It
Okay.
poorly when it comes to something you're born.
I had no
I have a
idea.
question.
None. Zero
No,
clue.
So probably you're gonna dislike my view of like sex and gender and like transgender and stuff like that. So that's gonna be like a different conversation. So we probably will disagree there.
Wait,
I
But
don't
just
know.
to be, yeah,
Erudite.
just to be clear, why are all supermodels over 6 feet tall? If
They're
height
not.
is
Generally, a
supermodels
bunch
be
of them.
insecure.
Wait.
They're
Not for
on
men.
gun.
Not for men.
I think it's a bad analogy. Supermodels obviously have enough other feminine features to compensate for the masculine feature of being extremely tall.
They're
For
all
men-
5'9". They're
for
all
men-
5'9".
Yeah,
Let's-
5'9", 5'10".
Wait. For
Average height.
men, modeling agencies, most modeling agencies for men require you can't be under 5'11".
You have to be
6 foot to
6'1".
6'2".
Oh, made the fucking
Yeah,
cut.
that's
Yeah,
the
for
average.
men.
And again,
I know because I was
we
too tall to
In
be
height.
Yeah, do you guys think
registered with
5'9"?
6 to 6'2".
tall for
That's
women?
like the masculine.
It
like,
is
range
significantly
is
taller
what-
than the average for women. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I'm
So
6'1".
tall
and I'm
women-
I believe the
not-
average for
wait.
women is like 5'4".
Did we great? Did we all work together to establish that tall women seem to actually not just be feminine, but held up as fucking beauty standards to women? Great.
It isn't.
This
Okay,
is-
we're all-
This is bad. She's saying tall for women. When I think tall women, I think a woman that would be tall for a tall man.
You're not.
I just
you're
think
not-
tall
Hold on,
person.
Let me get in here. Let me get in here. No, let me. I'm gonna get in here, right? Like
Height is not
you
essential
use-
to gender.
Listen,
That's the point.
listen.
Okay.
I think most people here, and this off my do believe that the role that we're speaking of is socially.
You're breaking up a lot.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Sorry,
Get
I-
closer. I'm sorry,
yeah.
buddy.
Okay, all right, sorry. That the role that we're speaking about is socially constructed. And
True.
what
Absolutely.
you're saying is that it is a default that tall women are not necessarily less feminine because there's a very, very small section of the population where it is more desirable for the women to be tall because of the way that the photos turn out and the way that clothing fits a taller form. But in the general world, right, people do not use words like dainty, which they associate with femininity, for super tall jacked women, right?
No.
Like femininity absolutely does have an element of being smaller, of being demure, of being submissive, of being
Sure.
shorter in stature, and it
Yeah.
is the exact opposite for men.
Sure. So
Men
my
didn't want to
question
date
is,
me until after they found
Erudite.
out I was a
my question
model.
is though.
Can I answer you?
people-
Can I answer you, Erudite?
Sure. Can I just
Well,
ask one last question?
Yeah,
just to
she
be
has
fair?
an answer.
My question would be: do people look at supermodels and go, "Not sure if this is very
She
feminine.
needs
This
to
isn't a
drop
very
the
feminine woman.
supermodel
Is this
thing.
a woman?" Does anybody
don't-
experience that?
Yes.
I
Some
don't
of them I
think-
look at and go, they look like aliens. And I know
Yeah, that's
that I'm
usually what
not
I
alone
think.
when I
I
see
don't
some of these
think-
people with like these cheekbones
Okay,
that are like,
I'm gonna re-ask it. Hold on, I'm gonna re-ask it, but I'm gonna ask everyone to engage in good faith because I'm reading based on how like the leftists and the conservatives are responding to me that you guys are baking into what I'm saying with a lot of weird stuff. Probably the conservatives are actually not baking into weird stuff.
I have an actual answer, but go ahead.
But my question is just, do you actually think if you're touching grass that on average when people look at supermodels that they go, she's really tall, I don't know if she's a woman. Not very feminine.
No, but the reason is
the
because
latter, yes.
The reason is because when you digest modeling material, which is usually magazines or entertainment, like commercials, however it is digested, perceived height is difficult to determine. It's not that you perceive them. So supermodels that are, I think the
That's not a
ideal
bad
range
point.
for female models is like 5'9" to 5'11" or something like that, maybe even 6 foot.
Typically.
That's typically not something that comes across well on TV. Do you know what I mean? So there's a reason
not
why
that tall.
that has to do with the way that clothes fit tall people. They kind of look better on tall people. They're easier to design, stuff like that. But it doesn't have to do with like I know when I see a tall woman in public and my guy friends make a comment about how tall she is, it's not of a sexual nature. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay.
let's-
That's a weird way to put
can I
that.
just say an
I think I know
actual
what he
fact
means, but
right
that's a
now?
weird way to
An
say it.
actual fact about this industry. Many of us who are taller, the reason that I am even able to model at 6'1", which is technically too tall for most agencies, is because of the androgyny factor.
Okay, so then if this height thing is like such an issue and it's just erased on like camera, why do they always prefer short people for movies?
Also, I think it's what? I think it's really weird for her to just repeat her argument and then re-ask everybody saying, be good faith if you touch grass. She's like loading it up with qualifiers that basically says if you don't agree with me, then you're bad faith and you're like a no-life loser who doesn't touch grass. That's weird.
I don't know. If
What?
that's-
I wouldn't
don't
expect
know if
that.
that's
I don't
right.
think that's
I
true.
don't have. I
Is
have
that
no idea.
true?
That is regularly, in fact, it's
Tom
notorious that
Cruise-
actors are short.
No,
Tom
most
Cruise
movie
has to
star.
stay on a fucking table.
Yeah,
Tom
most
Cruise-
male movie
yeah.
stars are pretty tall.
The
Yeah.
difficulty like we're running into is like you're saying things that are like I listed out like a study that seems to like counter this. Like yes, when you are short and like you value masculinity like over like in a population, like you get really insecure about your height, and then if
Yes.
you don't care about masculinity, you're not really that insecure.
Yes.
But like the one of the other issue we're having is
Yeah,
like,
I never
you're
thought
saying
about
is
my
kinda
height
flying in the
before.
face of everybody's intuition here. Like
I never thought about my height, like, ever. I guess I maybe thought I was, like, a little bit on the shorter side, but, like, it never really played a factor into how I thought about myself, especially not, like, in terms of, like, dating or anything like that, but maybe that's just because I don't ever consider masculinity, ever.
we all
Sure,
know.
but I was
we all
also on
know
a panel the other day where they were like arguing about like gun shit, and it was just like clear that literally nobody had ever stepped outside or like been in a fight. So like I'm very
Is that
used
your
to
argument?
Okay, so I'm gonna say
Yes,
like
on
I'm gonna
that.
say like a I've been outside statement right now. Like I have been outside and I've been to bars, right? And I have heard
It's so
women
cringe.
talk and I've heard men talk, and never in my entire life have I heard like I'm sorry, like women talk about how attractive shortnesses on a man. That's not something that they talk about.
True.
Sorry.
But this is something I just
let's go
learned. Like,
to-
in
Yeah,
the
the
last
alternative
year or
is
two.
true.
You're making my heart lactoid.
I'm gonna give Doobie a shot. If Nina, you have something to say, I want to make sure you get space. Go ahead, Doobie.
Yeah, and I think Scott touched on this a little bit earlier, but we're not even saying we agree with this, or at least I'm not, right? I don't agree that a tall woman is not feminine. I'm saying that the women who are tall, because this is like a societal standard or construct, a lot of these women do feel less feminine, right? So if they feel like the society that they're in sees them as less feminine, so they're internalizing this and then they feel less feminine, I can absolutely see them wanting to find some way to appear more feminine, whether that's finding a way to be shorter, just walk in such a way that they appear shorter, or get big boobies to offset the tallness, right? Something to affirm their gender.
Okay, and so you guys just
That builds on what I was saying. Like, supermodels are typically going to have more feminine features, like extremely feminine features that would offset the heights, masculinity, presenting this.
just a show of thumbs. Is everyone agreeing then that like when cis people like want to just be like more feminine and more masculine for whatever reasons that they have, that they're essentially just acquiring gender affirming care? Everyone agrees with that? It's the same thing as when trans people try
That's
to
literally
transition.
what they've been saying.
No, I don't think
Everyone agrees with
It's
that?
not the same.
I don't think it's exactly the same. I'm sure that there's some people.
You know what? Honestly, it's amazing. You guys just
Oh,
ruined
God.
trans advocacy on a single panel.
No,
so if that's the position you guys want to hold,
How?
that's
You didn't
fine.
even
All we're
get
doing-
an answer. How
all
you're
we're
gonna say
doing-
No one
that?
gave an
All we're doing is
Doobie.
extending.
I
All
gave
we're
an
doing is
answer.
extending gender affirming care to
All right, well,
cis
just
people. That
kill.
doesn't ruin anything for.
Kill is
and
ruining.
actually, this is a more
Yeah,
exclusive
the word
way
doesn't
to
mean
think of the
anything
issue.
now. Base.
This is a more exclusive way to think of the issue, so that trans people don't feel like they're fucked up for wanting that gender affirming care because it's something a cis person might want too.
Making
We're actually-
it
it's
more
actually way
inclusive
Dude,
Yeah.
we back.
makes it
Wait, so
Exactly.
worse for trans people and invalidates them. I don't understand that.
Hold on. Trans people, we
Amazing.
don't want to be. We don't. Which, first of all, I don't have to advocate shit. I exist. But on top of that, trans people don't have to assign a certain type of care to themselves to feel special. We don't have to feel special. We want to feel included. That's largely why people get trans affirming care. So if you're going to take this particular type of thing and you're going to say this is exclusive to trans people, gender affirming care is exclusive to trans people, how does that help us?
Yeah.
So you guys think that me going to the government of Canada and saying, hey, I'm pretty insecure about my breast size. I'm a cis woman. They're a little bit smaller than I'd like. I would like some gender affirming care and I'd like that covered. You guys, so ignore the fiscal stuff.
Nobody said
Are you guys cool with me
Imagine
going
free
to the
healthcare.
government and
I
asking
think
for
that
gender affirming
language
care?
minimizes the experiences of women who actually have small breasts and are considering this. But
Yes.
if a woman says, "Hey,
Based.
I don't like how small my breasts are. I'd like them to be bigger. Government, please help me." I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
She's
But
making the
again,
argument that-
Okay.
But again,
Just
I
to be
think,
upfront.
Jimmy nailed
I
that.
think that actually minimizes the experiences of women who actually go through these procedures.
I don't think it's
got that from my opening
gender
statement.
affirming care.
That-
I'm not saying other women can't get breast jobs. I'm just, for me, I just want to affirm my gender more with larger breasts. So I would like gender affirming care.
Well,
Everyone
would that make you
I
feel
addressed this
more?
in my
it would
opening
make me
statement.
so much happier. Yeah.
No, are you
No,
just saying that,
this
or is
is-
that actually
so-
how you feel?
No,
So
it would
let
make me
me-
so much happier. I'm sure
so
having
let
bigger
me-
tits
Okay,
would make
well,
me a
let's
lot
go.
more.
I mean, let's
Can
do
I
that.
address this as
So
also
let me
a fellow
get in on
Canadian?
this. So
She just asked everybody else to be good faith on her thing and then came with it. I don't like that. That's weird to me. To hear her make that argument.
number one, this is already done by the United States government for women in the military if they can prove that they have like some form of body issues and that it has caused issues within their
Do you
relationship. If
say
they're married to
things?
another soldier, you actually can.
Oh shit, did I skip ahead?
Get the government to pay for breast.
Well, we're here. That's what I
But
wanted to hear
what is
anyway.
it
that's
called?
kind of
I
irrelevant.
didn't mean
right?
to.
What is it called?
What's it called?
The
Yeah, I
program?
assume it's a procedure. Yeah, a program procedure. What
should be
is it
called
called?
gender
You
affirming
think
care,
I
right?
have the VA fucking ICD-10?
No,
code
no, I
for
just think that
Like,
you're
I don't fucking
lying.
know.
God damn
Well,
it, Scott!
okay.
Why do you always do this?
You wouldn't have to call it gender affirming care. I think maybe if it's cis people. Like, I don't know. What does it fucking matter if you call it the same thing? Obviously, it's something that's a little bit different. But it's probably extremely similar in how we would approach understanding it. It's not as though it's a made-up thing. Obviously, people do have a really hard time dealing with their bodies and the way that people are going to perceive them, the way that people are going to treat them, who aren't trans. Why does it matter if what the fuck we call it? If trans people have an issue with them calling it, then just fucking call it something different. I don't understand why you would get up in arms about it. Why would you want to stop anybody from doing something that makes them feel more comfortable in their own skin, makes them feel more like who they think of themselves as, and would help them live a better life? It's so weird to be angry about it to me. I think that being angry about it is the same as being angry about people getting medical treatment for like a trans person getting gender affirming care. This is weird.
You motherfucker! I think you're just lying.
Tactical morale
There-
improvement.
It's not just
You're just
women
gonna
with
say
breast
something.
surgery.
You have no sources for this.
Okay, I'll get you the source later if you want me to
No,
go through and find. I'm not going to fucking right this second go through the VA paying for this.
Okay,
right? Like
I'll
it's a
look-
common it's
alright,
common
continue
knowledge in the military.
saying whatever.
I want
Hey,
evidence
It's
of
common
tactical
knowledge,
kickouts
and you don't know what
immediately.
it is.
Right. When I'm done speaking, I'll look it up for you since you can't fucking Google and give
Well,
you
I'm
the
asking you
fucking-
right now. You can just stop speaking and then look it up for me.
No, actually, I don't have to do anything that you
Can we
say.
off
You're
right?
citing this
I'm
as
sorry,
a source,
guys.
motherfucker.
We gotta move past this. We gotta move past this.
All right.
I'm sorry. I was laughing the entire time. Black Dude got me good.
Corey.
Scott,
I'll get you. I'll get you the source.
Please
afterward,
do.
Right. Okay. Now, hush. Right. So the problem here, I think, is that
What a
it doesn't
G.
feel like anyone
He
is
said
able
now,
to actually
hush.
differentiate the cosmetic surgery of leg lengthening surgery, breast augmentation, or
I
even breast
have,
reduction
just to be
between
clear.
between that and trans care without saying that the disorder itself is fundamentally different.
It's about the
Right?
gendered performance, which again, non-binary
Right,
people
the
are not
gender
going to
Already gone
like.
through that.
is this, like, we've already proven that the gender performance is the same. Lactoid has shown that individuals
It's not the s-
associate height with
It's not the same. That's you're begging for people to jump down your throat when you say that. I think it's very close in like basically every way. It's very close. It's very similar. I think it's valid to compare them, but it's obviously not the same thing. But I don't think it not being exactly the same is a reason to say, well, this is very similar. Like, I can't imagine another issue, like a medical issue. Well, this is very, very similar to this other thing. In fact, it's even difficult to quantify exactly the differences between these things, but we know there's differences. But it would be crazy for us to try the same treatment on them based on that same. I don't think that would be a good argument to make in like other avenues of like trying to treat people. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. Fuck that. I'm not wrong. That would be like your first stop in trying to like help people.
with masculinity. The article itself affirms that the people didn't feel masculine enough, etc. Now, what
Nobody
we're
thinks a
talking about-
tall woman isn't a woman. Everyone thinks
But
that,
they
for
do think
example,
that
a
they're
woman
less of
who
one.
has a beard, an Adam's apple, and broad shoulders
You really-
with no
not
tits
swear to-
isn't
not
a
swear
woman.
to-
Of course.
If you're
But
gonna
they-
fuck-
but they
if you're
do
gonna
think-
get-
they do
listen,
think that
hold
it-
on, no.
Insane.
If you're
That
gonna
argument.
get this fucking
I
triggered,
don't understand how
let's
this is.
go down that rabbit hole and talk about how many people think a trans woman is a woman as opposed to just a fucking
True.
dude. All right, like we can go through the societal fucking idea of what one thing is and what one thing isn't. All I'm saying is the data does show that people feel less of a woman and less of a man. And these people that are trans, that have a gendered soul, that want you to believe that they are a woman, feel like less of a woman without this cosmetic surgery and feel more affirmed and more like a woman with the cosmetic surgery. The disconnect is not the surgery. What the surgery does is highlight the idea that we, for whatever reason, treat this disorder, call it gender dysphoria, call it gender identity disorder, call it, whatever comorbidities and transfactional comorbidities or whatever, like that go along with all of this shit. We treat this as a special case. And there isn't the fucking science to back up any of this shit being a special case. And what I'm arguing, and what I think, and probably not a lot of conservatives, because most of them go trans, ew, icky, please ban it, right? What I am arguing is that they should be treated the same, because you can't differentiate the surgeries and the practices from those of leg lengthening or breast augmentation from the others. There's these dubious claims about suicidality that have nothing to do with the surgery or the rights of an individual to get those surgery, and have everything to do with both politics, ideology, and psychotherapy. And you can't demonstrate that this actually helps.
I guess the 61% reduction in suicide is 2 years follow-up with trans people transitioning successfully. Just
I got it.
Yeah, but
I
like,
got it. I gotta go to.
I gotta. We can go.
I gotta go to Corey, who's been waiting, and then GB.
Korean-
And Kilo, I'm not sure if you had your hand up. Give me alpha palms if you need. Okay. All right. Good. All right. So, Corey, please.
Yeah, to address the example that Erudite brought up in terms of like whatever, using specifically Canadian healthcare, of like, should I have the right to just go to the doctor saying, hey, whatever, I need breast implants because it'll just make me happier. I don't see how me saying no to that scenario like invalidates any sort of argument, as in like gatekeeping happens in Canadian healthcare, just as you shouldn't be able to go to a doctor saying, hey, I'm in pain, therefore prescribe me opioids. I don't see how that invalidates of like you can. If someone is, let's say, experiencing gender dysphoria, I'm not sure, I don't know all the details of gender affirming care in Canada, and obviously it varies by province, but I have no problem with anyone going to a medical professional and expressing some sort of whatever gender dysphoria, insecurity, and then as a result of some sort of medical evaluation, hopefully by appropriate professionals, that even something as maybe extreme as leg lengthening surgery as part of gender affirming care, but it's just gatekept, just as we do all gatekeeping of healthcare in Canada. I don't see that as a problem, just as we gatekeep, painkillers and every other medical treatment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Dewey, please.
I think maybe, and obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe the disconnect here is going to be when we believe that someone is actually trans, right, or actually a woman. So for me, I say that gender is an internal state of being, right, an internal experience. So if someone identifies as a woman, they are a woman, even if they don't have breasts, even if they have a beard, right? That is a woman with a beard, right? So I'm curious, like, Kylie, do you think that someone needs to like express is like a maybe not stereotypical? I feel like that's kind of loaded, but they need to express in like a traditionally feminine way or somewhat for them to be considered a woman?
Yeah, I think gender is a performance essentially, and that you need to like
I
do
see.
some level of attempting the performance. I don't think you have to perform it well. And I would never, for example, look at somebody who's clearly attempting the performance and just not use their pronouns because I just like, I'm like, well, you're pretty ugly. I would never do that. But I
Right.
think it's pretty clear when people are like attempting to perform in such a gendered way. And I try to like acknowledge that. But yeah, I do see gender as like a performance that is downstream from sex. Yes. Not the
Okay.
same thing.
So I think maybe that is the disconnect.
Yeah,
Because
it is the disconnect, right?
Yeah.
Because I to some degree, like so hot take, I am a trans gatekeeper. I don't think anyone can just be trans because they feel like it and they want it. And I dislike the idea of this because I think it actively erodes all trans advocacy, because I do see transitioning and gender affirming care as a medical need, at least established in the literature for adult transitioning people. I just do. That's clearly not going to be a
And
hot take.
May I ask the follow-up question of who does the gatekeeping then in your scenario?
Ideally, it's going to be
Sure.
doctor. No, of course not. Wait, can I just, for a second, just ask that you would not assume that I'm some like awful bigot? I
I'm
would
just making a
recommend-
joke that you said that I
Do you
am a
think that
trans
I-
gatekeeper. You literally just said the words. I'm just making a joke. I'm
So-
sorry.
Right. That would be the same as like me saying like I'm a capitalist, right? Like it doesn't mean that like I am the end all be all of capitalism.
Terrible.
course.
Terrible.
Who I would
Yeah,
want
I
to be
am.
gatekeeping,
Ruin over here.
who is gatekeeping trans and who gets access to gender affirming care is a combination of experts in both gender affirming care, so doctors,
sure.
psychologists, and
Dog.
the people who are trained to actually administer this treatment and help these people transition.
Isn't that my position then of what I just went through earlier? Of like, if you
Right.
like, even if you just like go to the doctor saying, hey, whatever, I just want larger breasts, and then I'm hoping the experts can distinguish between someone who just wants larger breasts for largely cosmetic reasons versus someone who's trans and experiencing gender dysphoria or what have you.
Sure, if we're
Or someone
differentiating
who's
it,
cis
and then
and
therefore,
experiencing gender
if they're
dysphoria.
cis, well, I guess that would be a conversation for the experts to have. Typically, when we're talking about gender dysphoria, we're talking about people aiming to transition to some degree and experiencing a heightened level of distress because their body doesn't map onto their internal experience of gender. So, Corey, I think maybe we more agree. I'm not sure. I've had like 9 different opinions.
I
Maybe
understand.
I'm blending yours with somebody else. I I guess I would differentiate limb lengthening and like cis women wanting breast surgeries as they're not achieving gender affirming care. It isn't gender affirming care. It's something else. It might even be helpful. I'm not opposed to cosmetic surgeries. I just am not comfortable calling it gender affirming care.
I think
you-
that kind of line of reasoning would cut off trans people from seeking any kind of gender affirming care, right? Because you can express as a
Why?
woman without getting surgery, right? You can wear a dress, you can have long hair, do all the stereotypical woman things. So if having breasts doesn't make you more of a woman, or like it
Well,
seems like
It
the reason why
does.
we hold on,
The way people are perceived.
the
well, this
reason
is
why we
yeah,
would
of course.
call it a care is because it seems to be the case that for like trans adults who have gone through the transition and received a bunch of these medical interventions, like getting breasts or shaving
Right.
off Adam's apples, because they perform more, because the exterior world also sees them as women and their internal image maps onto that better, the dysphoria decreases, right?
Right, and I'm sure
Which is my goal.
if a woman with small breasts who feels uncomfortable with her body because she has small breasts were to get a breast implants, that
She
dysphoria,
can.
that kind of that feeling that she's not really fulfilling the needs of her gender, right, would decrease.
So two
Yeah,
things.
I just wouldn't
Number
call it
one,
gender affirming care.
two things. Number one, the data doesn't show that, right? It only shows that for a short period of time.
Oh God.
And then there's long-term studies from the UK that show desistance rates, right? So the idea is that when you say that these surgeries automatically lead to better outcomes, or that they lead on average to these better outcomes, it's like, yeah, you have a bunch of fucking comorbidities from somebody that has all of these issues that they then tie to their gender identity. They get told is their gender identity. They get immediately affirmed because you're going to lose your fucking license in America if you just start turning people away because you're going to get fucking ethics complaints constantly. And then yeah, if you have an obsessive disorder and then you latch onto that disorder and an ideology that's not that much different than feminist psychotherapy, where you can take your issues and then act out in activism, which many in the trans community do, and then become trans rights activists, etc. Yeah, you might see a temporary decrease in suicidality or in issues, but that doesn't mean that the long-term studies show that, and that doesn't mean that they're worth it. Furthermore, it doesn't differentiate between individuals that are already within one sex becoming more like the gender that they see and feel less like that gender,
Okay,
and vice
can I
versa.
suggest a differentiation? So when it comes to things like body dysmorphia, which is what I'm going to say cis women wanting larger breasts fall into, it seems to be the case that therapy is highly effective at desisting most cases of body dysmorphia. It tends to be highly intensive and rigorous. For example, somebody with eating disorders is going to have high levels of it, and it's going to need a lot of it. But by and large, treatment and therapy for body dysmorphia tends to be effective. Typically, surgeries is not required to remedy it. In the case of, for example, trans people, they're going to tell you their sordid history with conversion therapy, which is, yeah, therapy needs to be done with all trans people. Absolutely. I would agree with Johnny in saying it should be the first step with every one of them, right? But a lot of trans people will tell you that just being told by therapists over and over again that you aren't in the opposite, like you're not in the wrong body, doesn't work for a number of these people. This is why gender affirming care became medicalized in and of itself, is because a lot of this conversion therapy type experiences were awful and they didn't treat the needs. Yes, it treated some. Of course it treated some, but it didn't treat a lot of them. And I'm sorry, I guess we'll have to like compare data. Every long-term study in adult populations up to 2 years has shown remarkable effects, with desisters being typically less than 5%. It's very rare
Okay.
that they desist. With most people, I think it's upwards of like 70% say that the transition has radically improved their lives, even if it's come with major social costs.
Let's go to
So first-
Kilo. Hold on.
first-
I want to hear from Kilo. I want to hear from Kilo. He was next. And you talked to
50% of
him.
this community was personality disorders.
Scott.
Like, this is insane.
God, shut the fuck up.
Kilo.
We're covering a lot of bases, so I'm a little bit lost in the plot. I kind of want to say, I think that the thing that I'm trying to acknowledge in this conversation.
I'm sorry. I've been working while I do this. I'm trying to print out some shipping labels and I keep like putting them in upside down. So that's why I'm getting up and walking back and forth. I'll be a little bit more of an active participant here in like a minute. I just got to get these printed.
Is that, and it is entirely dependent on the individual. It's different for every single person. Everyone has an idealized version of the self that is contained within their subconscious. Whether that is related to how you are treated by other people, whether that's related to how you look, whether that is related to what gender you are. I think that when we're talking about this and we're saying that there's differences between cosmetic surgeries and ones that are based on internal struggles, they're all derived of the same thing. So earlier when I said that the difference lies in the magnitude, the reason why trans people experience such a debilitating level of depression and anxiety surrounding their transition is because everything about gender,
That ought to do it.
we're conditioned to make people very attached to the idea of their gender. Clothes, entertainment, the things they're interested in, everything about you is related to the things that is normal for you to be interested in, or for the things for you to wear, or anything really. So it's debilitating for trans people to not feel like they
Okay,
are
cool.
actualizing their idealized version of themselves. It is still somewhat distressful for people who are shorter than they ideally would like themselves to be to experience, but it's the same thing. They have an idealized version of the self that is not being actualized. These are the same thing, they're just different magnitudes. I don't like the distinction. Oh, that's cosmetic. And, same thing with breast implants, same thing with any type of plastic surgery. These are all derived of the same thing. It's just different levels of debilitation.
But like, hold on, Erudite. So, would you say that you can even acknowledge that, but just for a political and pragmatic sense, that it's just too damaging. That like separating these things has a useful reasons utility to do so.
Separating which things? Sorry, just to be
Oh,
clear.
sorry. No, yeah, limb lengthening and breast implants on cis people with everything that trans people get.
So you're saying that
I don't really care what they
differentiating them
call
is
it.
a good idea?
Yeah, for practical reasons. That's what you're trying to say, right? Like,
He's asking
Yeah.
if you're lying because it's politically impractical.
No, I think gender affirming care is a precise
Huh.
thing that we're talking about, and I don't think that any cosmetic procedure that makes you feel better should be included under the umbrella of gender affirming care, because gender affirming care is both a clinical term at this point.
I don't think that's the worst argument. I do think that it might go far in helping trans people, though. That's really murky. So if you call it the same thing for cis people and trans people, then trans people can get around a lot of the fucking super bigoted people by not having gender affirming care being strictly associated with being trans. So as far as anybody knows, if a clinic is giving somebody like gender affirming care, they could be cis or trans, and there's really nobody to like fucking jump down anybody's throat about it. I don't know if this then gets murky. I guess it wouldn't. It shouldn't get any kind of murky if you're trying to like do studies and understand like the effects of certain gender affirming cares on trans people or like on cis people. I think that you would just like be in the notes and you could differentiate that within the data. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's some pros to it. I don't really know how justifiable it would be to say that this would be like super harmful to trans people. It almost feels like to me that this might just be like some degree of like being pedantic due to like being in the field, and I can understand that. I don't like it when people use the wrong words in like my professional fields, but I don't know if I would argue it with this kind of veracity.
And a political term that has a very precise meaning. And if we're just going to apply it to any cosmetic surgeries that make you feel better, now gender affirming care doesn't mean anything. And so it's going to be really hard politically to try to move in states like Florida, for example, that has banned gender affirming care. What does that mean?
Okay, so actually now it feels dishonest because it's obviously we're definitely talking about medical treatment that is focused on, even if it's cis people, changing qualities that are like very strictly tied to gender. So maybe I like her argument. She had me there for a minute, and I think she lost me again.
Right, you
might be saying the same thing. You might be saying that there is a political connotation to you using the phrase, and that's why it's being gatekept.
Right, you're admitting that it's just a political pawn.
I literally said clinical. I also said clinical. Do you want me to reverse it?
But there isn't any fucking data to support that. When you say it's clinical, but what it becomes clinical because there's a certain percentile of suicidality reduction. When we realize that taller individuals are less suicidal, and we realize that they attach to their masculinity, and we realize that there is a surgery that can reduce suicidality in shorter individuals. What's the difference other than a certain percentage all of a sudden makes it magically different? What's making it magically different is that there's political.
The care is the same. It's just that the thing that's happening that leads to the care is different. So, like, I guess to me, it's kind of like saying, if somebody, if we find out that, like, chemo actually treats some other thing that's, like, really bad for people. It's not as bad as cancer, but it's not great. And it turns out to be, like, a super viable treatment that people are opting for, and it's helping them. And, like, it's been all approved and all that. There's, like, we've already determined that, like, the good outweighs the bad. Then we wouldn't not call it chemo because, like, cancer is really sensitive. Like, we don't want to call it chemotherapy because, like, people might get like butthurt about it or whatever. Yeah, of course you can have a Discord link. Welder Waxy? What the fuck does that mean? Oh shit, hang on. I forgot the bot's not set up on YouTube. But it is on Twitch, so I can share it on Twitch and then I can paste it over here. By the way, I see you commenting on some of my YouTube videos. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the kind and positive words you've thrown my way. It's always nice to read them. I appreciate you a lot.
Philosophy pushing this that has swarmed into
Thank you, you too.
To the medical community, into the AMA, the APA, the ACA, and has gone completely out of whack of science in any fucking spectrum. And that's why you're seeing pushback in places like Sweden, where they're like, hey, we don't know what the fuck this is, and we don't know why we're doing it to people.
Right. Sorry, I also read the Sweden release, right? And what it said is that there's a emptiness of literature, particularly around trans youth. I read the study as well. The term gender affirming care, keyword on care, has a functional purpose. It is clinical and it is political. Not all cosmetic surgeries are care. Cosmetic surgeries can be care, particularly in the case of trans people under gender affirming care, because the goal of the surgery is not to have bigger boobs, it is to be a woman and in as much way as possible for that individual.
So you have a dubious science backing up an intervention, and because an ideologically captured institution says it's an intervention, it's clinical, so it's off limits for us to call it cosmetic. Bullshit, it's cosmetic.
Yeah, I mean, apparently though, you've won with the lefties. They all just want to call it cosmetic and for funsies too. So
go ahead.
It's not for fun.
The thing is gender affirming. It's gender affirming for a cis person. That's what we're saying.
One hypo that Doobie brought up before how he saw the amazing atheist penis and it was microscopically small or something.
You should watch the video. It's really
I'm not gonna watch it.
So don't answer me, but I will answer you. If that's your name, change it. If it's close to your name, change it. I know somebody who chats on my YouTube sometimes, and it's their name. And I told them it's probably not the best idea to use your name. It's like actually their name. And I said it's probably not actually the best idea if you're gonna be in my chat to use your real name. Because some people really, really fucking hate that I'm a Mr. Girl fan. They could just see you in my chat or on like your name pop up on my stream because I guess not so much if you're on YouTube. But I just think that sometimes I get some crazies in here. And if it's close to your name, you should probably change it. And hopefully it's not your actual name. That would be my advice coming from a place of care and consideration.
So my question for you is, let's say you had a man. He was born a man, and that's what he identified as.
You had a man.
And let's just say that like he had no penis, or it was so incredibly small that it was non-functional.
Oof.
And he goes in to get a surgery to basically have them construct a penis for him. Would that be gender affirming care?
You know what? Why don't we just call all this shit gender affirming cosmetic surgery? Would that be better for everyone?
Kind of.
No, because I don't understand what the issue is
I
with
feel
calling
like-
that care. Why not use the word care? I'm sure
I
the
see.
fact his penis is so
I think that at this point, with like the level of being pedantic, I would probably be so triggered that I'd be like, nope, now we just have to call gender affirming care. I think that I would lose my ability to be as reasonable as I normally am. When it's such a serious topic, at least I think it's a pretty serious topic. And you actually have like a trans person here, like on the oppositional side here, saying like, no, it's I'm cool with this. Which isn't necessarily, it's not like a make it or break it thing, but like just the level of being pedantic about it, I think would just trigger me super hard. And like, no, it's just gender affirming care, and I would just, I don't think I'd argue in bad faith, but I'd be like unnecessarily combative about it because I'd be really frustrated here.
small. It's distressing to him. It would make him feel better if this was corrected. So what's the issue with calling that care?
If they'd have built
Why doesn't anybody just straight up say to her like, what's gonna happen? You tell me, okay, it's political, it's clinical. What the fuck is gonna happen if we decide we want to call it gender affirming care? Like, where's the pile of dead bodies here? Where's the trans people losing their ability to get gender affirming care because cis people are saying it? Explain to me how this process works. Explain to me how the idea that making it more inclusive and cis people can get it wouldn't actually help. I need you to dispel these things because that's potential too. I want to see some of these people go a little bit harder on that and actually like make her walk them through the process as to how this is actually going to cause harm. I'm sure you fielded many questions like this before, but how did you land the Jimmy and Baby interview? So I had already been I'm confused about how you went from advice and confessions to mod. I've been like a really enthusiastic fan since the beginning, and I think just from that, and I asked to be a mod when he said, okay, I need Twitch mods, and I think I wasn't near my computer when he first said it, and he asked again in Twitch, like on the same stream, and I asked again then, but he already had like enough, like, okay, we're good, and I was like, oh shit, okay. I think it was just and I was always like super active in the chat and stuff, so it was pretty apparent that I didn't mean any harm or anything like that. And so I got to become a mod when he went to YouTube. As soon as he said he needed mods, or I think as soon as he started streaming on YouTube, I was like, hey, if you need a mod, like, I'm your guy. And he's like, all right, Elder Drazi, you can be a mod. He's like, I know you. Like, I know your name when I see it. I love what a soy boy fan you are. It's very relatable. I get it. I think of myself as a little bit different than most people do, but like I 1,000,000% understand how the perception that everybody gets of me and like why they have it. But I'm a pretty big fucking fan. I'm not gonna lie. So like that makes perfect sense. And so I think that I got Baby just by asking. I was never a Discord mod, but I was in like the Discord mod channel. And so I just asked Baby, I was like, hey, do you think you'd be interested? Like, I don't know if you've ever done any streams before. And he's like, I did a stream with like Stardust once. And he's like, yeah, I could do that. There's no problem. And I was like, cool, man. Thank you. And then I asked him, I was like, do you have any idea like how I could get a hold of Jimmy or anything like that? And he goes, well, I'm not going to give you his username or anything, but let me ask him. And he's like, yeah. At first, he said that Jimmy was like, oh, okay, I guess I could talk to you like off stream or whatever. And then I talked to Jimmy a little bit, and Jimmy and I just hit it off like that. We both have our favorite, like I don't know if you know anything about Magic, but yeah, Baby came first. Yeah. Cause like Baby has seen me. Like, he's seen me modding, like he's seen me in chat and stuff. So he was like, kind of like, okay, I understand this guy's like not trying to do anything bad to anybody or whatever. It's like, oh, like we can give him a shot to be a mod. Like, I knew I had to give like the baby thumbs up to become the mod to begin with, in the YouTube chat. So like, baby at least knew like I'm not like some psychopath trying to like harm the community or anything. So I got that. But then like when Jimmy and I talked, our favorite Magic deck in the Commander format is the same. So we started talking about Magic and shit for a while. We talked for like a half hour about like nothing other than just like two nerds like talking about the shit that we like and finding out how similar we were. And I consider Jimmy to be like a friend. I gotta like reach out to him soon. I'm really bad at like keeping up with people that like aren't like in my face to interact with. But like Jimmy, sometimes Jimmy and I will like play video games and shit. I know he likes my poker streams. Sometimes when I'm playing poker on stream, he'll be like, fucking, you gotta like go all in right now. And I'm like, I don't want. He's like, dude, he's like, just do what you want. He's like, if you fucking go all in and lose, I'll fucking buy you back into the game. Okay, just fucking do it. Like Jimmy and I are really cool. Oh, that's funny. They were both very interesting. The baby interview was incredibly awkward, but Jimmy interview felt like two old friends. Yeah, like there's been very few people that I've met online that was just like such like an instant click. Like I think because we have so much of like a similar like nerd shit, like at the same level, that it's like when I go to like a card shop and I meet people, like I can just already start making jokes that I'm comfortable with and that are like kind of insighty because like the fact that we all play Magic, we kind of have the shared culture and like there's going to be other interests that like branch out from that. So there's just like an instant level of comfort being around people that have like weird nerdy hobbies that are the same as yours. I know how strict Mr. Girl is about boundaries, and in some ways it's kind of shocking that a previous Advice and Confessions caller is now a mod. I actually don't know which I'm on 2 or 3 of them. I think it's like the 4th or 5th one. And then I have no fucking clue on the other one. The other one's like several months out. I called in and said that was the first success story because having Mr. Girl tell me to go to therapy, like even though I knew I needed to, like hearing him say it, sort of helped give me that push. And I came back the second time to say like, I want you to know that I did go to therapy. And it helped a lot, and my therapist got me into a psychiatrist, and I got on meds, and my life is just like wholly better in every single way. It's got to be like the 3rd through 6th for sure from my first one. I can tell you that. Self-proclaimed first success story. Yeah, I'm the first person to call in and say, hey, look, I took your advice. I did the therapy, and like I am, like my life is substantially better in every single way. So I'm at least the first like on Advice and Confessions proclaimed, like self-proclaimed success story. Yeah. Just like my life is leaps and bounds. It's still better because of the therapy and following psychiatry that I got. I just never connected that. That's really funny. So, I'm about to play this again in a second, but just out of curiosity, did you see me on there before and you just wanted to rewatch them? Because like you knew that I was on them, just didn't remember which episodes. So I assumed that like you had just sort of seen them and like wasn't sure which one was me, or like you did at the time, and now you just like wanted to like get a better refresher. Because I think those ones are they were pretty good subjects. You'd think that I would know which ones too, but I can't. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a long time.
Build it. They literally
You
had
could-
to like build the penis, like because then the follow-up question is, okay, so this man was born
Build
without
the
a penis.
penis.
Yeah.
And we have to build him a penis, and that's not transforming care.
Well,
But then we have somebody who was born without a penis because they were born female,
Right.
and then they identify as a man, so the same
Right.
position.
Oh yeah, I do want to add one thing. I think it's particularly cool that you're a Mr. Grill fan. because a lot of Mr. Girl fans don't like me. A lot of Mr. Girl fans, like, just sort of like talk shit about me like a lot. It's really funny. You'd think that I would do better with the horses, but not really so much. I saw the success story one when I was first getting into Mr. Grill, but since rewatching yours and Smith's interviews, I'm the guy who was asking advice about talking to Smith. Was my first stream. Oh, I remember that.
Right. I would say the penis one, that might be negotiable.
So I'm really bad with
limb
names.
lengthening shit. I'm sorry.
Just
I
happened
just
to find your
just
advice
can't
and
map it on
confessions
gender.
through watching your other content.
When you say might be
Okay, cool.
Can you elaborate a little more on that?
I guess I would say we would need to have the experts weigh in. I don't think I've seen any like clinical case studies on specifically this type of situation about what degree that individual is experiencing anything akin to transness. When I'm talking about gender affirming care, I'm explicitly and always talking about trans individuals seeking medical assistance to transition.
And you believe that
By the way, because of what you said, I don't want to say your name, but I don't know how much of my stuff you've seen, and I just don't say it as much as I used to. But if you ever want to like call in and talk while I'm streaming, like I'm always down to talk to anybody. If you want to ask questions about like the stuff you were asking me and shit, I'd actually like to talk to you about being a Mr. Girl Orbiter. It sucks that you get hate because I think that you fit a really important niche in the community, but you sometimes do be a bit corny. Sure, but like I'm a corny guy. I think I'm not sure exactly which parts that you mean, but I think that one of the things that I really like about myself is that I'm really not afraid to be as like silly or as sincere as I want to be and not care about what other people think. I think that if I lost those things, or like emotionally honest in like even in situations where like it's gonna be generally like socially like say like you shouldn't really be that emotionally honest right now. I think that if I didn't have those things though, it would kill me. I wouldn't really be being myself. I like the silly and corny parts of myself probably more than all the rest of the parts, because I think that's like the most fun. Hey, if you're being yourself and no shame. A few times in the baby interview or your unveil. Baby one, I was like really green. And I don't know if I've ever went back and watched it. It was everything was still like pretty overwhelming to me. Like I was like kind of amazed that somebody said yes to me. He was like the first person I asked to interview, and he said yeah. I think I interviewed my buddy Kia Weird and this woman who does like sexy magic content, and that's it. But nobody who was like a part of like the Twitch sphere that I actually watched. So that was just like a wholly new experience, and it was really tough for me to navigate that. So I can imagine I'd probably have been pretty weird. In the Unbanned Mr. Grill interview, or the Unbanned Mr. Grill, like, yeah, the first half of that, I read it like all stone faced and like, and I had a weird tone. I had done the whole thing like a lot more like natural and just like sincere and stuff, and I found out that I wasn't, or like, that my mic was off, so I had to re-record it. So like at that point it just felt like a lot more scripted, and it was really weird for me. I don't think I've ever mentioned that before, but it was really awkward to re-record that. I really appreciate you talking to me, and love your silly corny parts too. Based, I appreciate it. Join the Discord. Maybe I'll have to talk to you about becoming a streamer. I really want to do it, but I'm super anxious about the whole orbiting thing. I called into the hotline before about the no jumper, actually. I didn't like my performance, but you cited a lot, and it seems like I'd love to talk about it with a super fan. Also, I love your male sexuality panel. It was awesome. Thank you. I think that's the stream that I'm the most proud of. I had a lot of fun, and I'm really glad that it seemed like everybody watching had fun, and the other people involved in it had a lot of fun. And I think we put a lot of good things out there. So I really, really like hearing that. Thank you.
And I
That
haven't
is
thought
an
about
important. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just
I
saying
appreciate
but I
you.
was just clarifying. I haven't thought about the penis thing.
Okay.
I'm not
I
perverting it.
I think that the
Oh, I
penis
didn't
thing
scroll
is
down.
actually a really good case of cisgender affirming care. I do. I don't, and this is not because I don't believe in trans care.
Wait, you joined the Discord? Oh! Hey, Kai! Thanks, man. I appreciate the raid. You're fucking awesome, man. Hello, all of Kai's viewers. I was actually talking to a chatter on YouTube. He said he joined my Discord. I don't see him. Well, just so you know, but I don't see you in here. What just takes you to the rules page? Okay, well, if not, hopefully we get it situated out.
Because obviously I am a person who
Oh.
benefits from that whole thing.
Yeah.
However,
For the people that are just getting here, I was watching the Primecayes panel. I appreciate it, Kai. I started watching this because I heard that Erudite had like people were saying that like she did bad in it, and I was like, that seems weird. I don't ever really see her do bad, and I actually do have quite a few issues with how she's approached like the cisgender affirming care stuff. It's really weird to me. She seems overly like she's really pedantic about like the wording of it, and she's only giving like things that feel like qualifiers but aren't actually qualifiers to like back up her position. So it's been a little bit this one's been a little rough for me. It's not like I dislike her or anything. I still really like Erudite, but this has just been a little bit more tough to swallow for me. Yeah, when I read the title, I thought for sure a Smith panel. I think your role as cool, calm, and composed streamer is a nice antithesis to Mr. Girl's ethos. Well, thanks, man.
what I am asking is I just want to know, is there something that is going to prevent trans people from being trans in your effort of solidifying this care as trans only? Is there something that will not other us in this? Is there something that will better integrate us into society in the effort of you saying that you are advocating for this
It's a
care
really
to
good
be
point.
trans only specific?
I don't think everyone can call themselves trans. That's what I'm saying. I think if you're vampire gender, you're not trans. I'm not interested.
That doesn't answer the fucking question, like, even a little bit. She's trying to say that if you're gonna gatekeep the term gender affirming care, does this help trans people in any way whatsoever? Because in my mind, it makes it a more inclusive term. It makes it more ambiguous if the person getting the care is trans or not. So from the outside, it seems like people are going to have a lot harder time trying to like take it away and ban it and shit. It seems like there's a lot of potential goods, so gatekeeping it just feels bad. I think what Johnny said is probably the best pushback so far.
I don't think it's trans.
Okay, but that's not what they asked.
Yeah.
That's not.
Okay, re-clarify your question then.
Okay, I want to know what you see as the benefits of taking what you would like to be called gender affirming care,
working now.
and making it trans specific. Because under my little psyche right here, if a man is born with a non-functioning micropenis and he does not feel like a man, then getting some motherfucking surgery for
Oh, no.
that, excuse me,
Wait a minute.
some motherfucking surgery, get some surgery for that is gender affirming care.
Where'd my screen
to me.
go?
I just don't see why that it is harmful for trans people.
I
It could be
haven't thought
literally
about
motherfucking
so
surgery.
in the case of an extreme. So what you're asking about is in this case of something when we're talking about definitions, we're talking about like these bubbles, and there's these gray areas in the middle.
Hang on. When did this happen? When did my fucking when did this stop showing up? There we go. Sorry about that. I don't know when that went away. I missed it. I can't remember my Discord password to face, so I'll have to get on that tomorrow to be official. That definitely is.
And in this
Mhm.
case, of this one instance of a gray, where does this fall in? I haven't thought about this specific instance. Nobody's ever brought it to me. I don't have a specific opinion about whether or not it would be considered gender affirming care or not, definitionally, right? What we were talking about from the very beginning was limb lengthening surgery, not micropenises.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I can work in. You
Alright,
can
so
potentially
you're
work in.
refusing to answer
You
the
can
question.
potentially work in that example. Like
So-
I would.
What I'm
okay.
saying is there's going to be things in gray areas, right? When we're defining things. So gender affirming care is a bubble of definition. And there's going to be gray edges around the edge. For example, this penis case. I don't know if it's going to fall into the category of gender affirming care or into a different category. I haven't thought about it.
What
So
else
I'm
would
not
it
going
be?
to weigh in and make some strong prediction or like prescription on something that I haven't had time to think about. My other positions I prepared for and have thought about.
So I would ask the question, the hypothetical, if this is a gray area, and it's totally valid if it is, where like if there's that's for example a trans man who is starting to transition, but let's just say they happen to be like super short, as in like they're like 4'8", 4'7", and it's really important for them in order to like fully transition that they would want this leg lengthening surgery. That is like core to how they visualize themselves.
That's good
and
pushback.
So would you potentially gatekeep that, saying no? Like that's a bridge too far.
At this point, yeah, I would gatekeep it. I don't think height is like this essential thing that we connect to gender,
Wow.
even
Okay,
though in general men are allowed.
If I can also like follow, and I really want to press this, please, to me. So
Shut up,
'cause
bitch.
You can.
But they can get the
Because-
cosmetic procedure. By the way,
because-
I don't think a
because-
trans
I
man
love you,
can't.
Cora,
get
I'm sorry.
lengthening.
Okay, so because you use the example of like let's say for example, tall models, they have no problem passing. So then presumably, change the genitalia is like shouldn't be off the table because you can pass in society
Based.
without changing your genitalia.
Correct. Yes.
So then that should not be part of gender affirming care, presumably.
I think a lot of the time it is because originally in like when we're talking about like original origin of like a lot of these surgeries, the penis and like people with the most severe levels of dysphoria, which was oftentimes associated with the genitalia, were the ones like championing. So it tends to be included in gender affirming care. But just to be clear, like bottom surgery is gender affirming care to me. I just don't think that every single trans person has to have all of gender affirming care. But limb lengthening surgery to me is not gender affirming care.
Oh yeah, that would be that's the disconnect between you and I.
Yeah,
So,
I
like,
just don't know how you draw that
if a
line.
medical team, hopefully they're qualified.
They specifically qualified this by saying the reason why they want to become taller is so that they're fitting within the lines of what's expected of the gender that they want to be perceived as by themselves and others. I don't know why we would cut it off at being taller. That seems like a weird metric to me. But maybe I'm weird in that. I mean, it seems like I don't know. It feels like from this panel that she's in the minority here. That's all.
Professionals would deem it, and they value this person that this is part of their gender affirming care. I have no problem approving that, at least in Canada.
Mhm.
Right. So the reason why I draw the line is because when we look at tall people, that doesn't really help us differentiate for the most part whether they're a gender or not. It gives us a bit of a rule of thumb. But for example, when you think about like Adam's apples or breasts, that does map onto more clearly a distinctive gender, and I want that to be accessible to people whose gender identity does not match what they were born with. Yes.
Wait,
Here's
but
a question.
you disagreed with the boob jobs though for women, for females who had small
cis
boobs.
women. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, but so if what they were born with isn't matching up with their gender identity, which is a women typically have breasts, right? If they have like really flat chest, I don't understand why you're leaving cis people out of that. Like it seems like the exact same thing.
I'm rejecting your ideology. You're saying it's all the same thing. Body dysmorphia is the same thing as gender dysphoria, and I'm saying I am not convinced of that at all.
I'm not calling it body dysphoria. Okay, why would you call it body
Yes, you are.
dysmorphia and not gender dysphoria?
Why
No,
would you
she's
call
right.
it gender dysphoria?
Dysmorphia and dysphoria are two different things. However,
Yeah, I'm wondering what the distinction is.
I think what Doobie is describing is to an extent dysphoria and not dysmorphia. Dysmorphia is thinking your boobs are smaller than they are. Dysphoria is wanting to present in a certain gender and not being able to.
Right. So
Right.
in the case of the cis woman with
Accurate.
small boobs, I don't think she's having this issue of not presenting as a woman. The issue is that she wishes that she was a more feminine woman. No, I don't think that she's trans. No, I'm not getting her gender affirming care.
What about a man who happens to have like a larger breast for whatever reason? Like there could be multiple reasons why that happens. but have larger breasts and wants to get them reduced. Would that be gender
Gynecomastia is a
affirming
thing
care?
among steroid
Yeah.
users.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Do I think a cis man
Destiny
getting
has that
backstory.
gynecomastia
I
reduction
appreciate
is
it.
gender affirming care?
yeah.
No. Gynosurgery might be gender affirming care, but in the case of the cis man, it's not. It's not driven out of gender dysphoria. It's
Look.
not a trans related care service.
Look. We are.
I
we
don't
are-
view it as
listen,
care at all, just to be clear.
Listen. We are beating up both this topic and not so
Yeah.
erudite based upon the principle of name the trait. I feel like while I
no.
disagree with her, she has clearly named the trait, right? In her opinion, right? That this idea
mean
of like
trait?
gender that she said
Oh.
at one point in time during this that gender is downstream in somewhat in ways inherent to the biology.
Yeah,
Something I
performance.
agree with her on, right? It's a performance, but it is inherent to a specific a specific sex, right? Like woman describes the role that society gives and to the adult human female and vice versa, right? Which is something I absolutely agree with. We're beating her up when I think what's really going on here is that the trait that she's attempting to elucidate is moving from one that is downstream from the sex that you have to the other that is downstream for the sex that you have, and that this fits a specific category that she believes, I wholly disagree, but she believes the data shows that this is something that leads to more positive outcomes and is an intervention.
Wait,
that can
it's
be
gone again.
prescribed, towards moving from one to the other, and that becoming more masculine is not considered in her position to be gender affirming care because it waters down the definition.
I don't know why that
of
keeps
what
going
gender
away.
affirming care is, because gender affirming care is talking about care for a specific set of mental health issues or however you want to fucking classify
Sorry about that.
that are present.
I'm
to a
confused
group of
by it.
people moving from one sex-based role into another sex-based role. I'm willing to accept that, right? I think we should all be willing to accept that. And instead, what I think is occurring is that most of the people here haven't read any gender theory and haven't looked into
Wait, so
any of
you
this
think
shit.
that trans
And to-
people are just people who want to move from one binary to the other?
Who are you asking?
I'm sorry, Scott.
Do I think trans people are people that want to move from one binary to
No,
the other?
I might misunderstand what you're saying. I'm just wanting you to clarify. It kind
think-
of seems like you're saying sex-based roles, and then you seem like you have no sympathy for the in the middle, so to say.
I have no sympathy for in the middle. I don't know.
Non-bi-
what
I don't know what that
non-binary-
means.
Are non-binary people
Generally,
trans?
Yeah, non-binary.
Are
No,
the
look,
non-binary
Scott-
transes too?
Scott
Look,
was
I
talking
think
about
that
what
you can
Erudite was
listen.
saying.
He was outlining my position. To be
to
clear, I
bring
think
out-
some are and some are not.
Okay, so
Right,
okay, so
to bring up some of the most dangerous communist ever.
I shouldn't have
Gregory
challenged
Lukács,
him.
right?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I do think that you can.
Erudite.
I do think that
Sorry.
there's something right. I do think that there is something to reifying, right, like gender ideas. And I know all the chat stuff. They get so mad at me because they're all right wingers. But no, I do think you can reify certain gender roles. The fact of the matter is that
Reify?
woman is inherent to female and man is inherent to male. There's no real good argument against those things. Now, the
Well,
TERFs would
that's
go so
another
far
panel.
as to say that there
Hold up.
is no gender, right? They're just as much a gender abolitionist as the far
No,
left.
they're not. Terps
Because
are
they're-
incredibly gender binary.
Yeah, I was gonna say Turks typically.
No, they're
are
about
not-
Actually,
sex.
actually,
They're
you don't-
insane
you don't know-
gender
hold on, hold
binary.
on.
You guys
You
are
literally
insane.
don't know what you're
All right,
talking about. if you say that.
all right.
Let's be clear. They're sexist
think
and
that'd be so
because when we're talking about
contentious.
gender abolition,
They-
Absolutely.
they-
reject gender roles, not because they don't think that. Yeah,
right.
okay.
They would say that you're destroying the idea of tomboy or anything like that because there is no difference because there is man and woman and that man and woman is synonymous and an
Yes,
exact
it's almost like that's a
one-to-one with
binary.
male
That's
and
crazy.
female.
No, but it's a sex-based binary, not like a
I
gender
don't think
theory.
TERFs
It
make
doesn't matter. The point is the binary is my entire
What do you
point.
mean it doesn't matter? You interrupted me to tell me I'm wrong. And then I told
You
you
are
how
wrong.
you're being fucking stupid. Like,
So
if it doesn't matter, then
How?
shut your fucking mouth.
So it's
Like-
ultimately, I agree. Like, I don't know how much headway we're really making. One of the
Yeah.
things I wanted to ask about, maybe switch
That
topics
was
a little
fun.
bit. One of the things I wanted to ask quickly about this proposal about we're getting more and more men who are getting limb lengthening surgery. We have examples of countries like South Korea where you have an increasingly large amount of the population that are getting plastic surgery, cosmetic surgery going forward. One of the concerns I have is if you are born in a society in which everybody is tall, because all the short people have had limb lengthening surgery, are you not sort of now like setting up a society for everybody who's going to be born afterwards, that you have this standard that you like need to hit to be the normal, right? So like in South
Korea,
Korea,
an epic handle folds
yeah,
with eye surgery.
exactly, right. In South Korea, like if where they sort of set up their children to like in order to look normal according to like their perception of normality, like they all have to get surgery now. This seems like we're setting up a system that sort of really emphasizes and encourages and prioritizes and incentivizes cosmetic surgery. And
Mhm.
which is that a good thing? I don't necessarily think so. It seems like a lot of wasted.
I don't think so either. I agree
Yeah.
with you.
A lot of bad
I-
waste,
Well,
wasted
wait,
That's
facilities.
I think you
actually.
should
Can I
make
get
fun
in
of
really quick?
dudes that spend $100,000 to add 3 inches.
Yeah,
Okay,
that'll
also
make them feel
bullying
better.
works. Yes. I wanted to say that bullying erudite was
They
not
just
the
spend more
point.
money to get taller and taller.
Bullying erudite.
I don't think that's cool. I don't think we should have such strict societal standards on people to be tall, to like validate them. Because I guess, as I've learned recently, that that's kind of a thing. But if somebody feels like they need that, I think that bullying them, they're probably going to be like super sensitive about it. That just seems fucked.
It was not the point. And
Yes, it was.
I really just genuinely wanted to know like why this is something that has to be so specific to trans people when in fact I would say that a lot of trans people are harmed by the idea that we have to get surgeries and we have to pass perfectly. Like the idea that gender affirming care falls under
You're not hearing me. Like you've just made a
I-
bunch of statements I literally disagree with. So I don't know what to tell you.
No, I'm telling
not
you
saying
things
you're
that
saying-
I am telling you things that I have experienced, which is that trans people are essentially marketed plastic surgery. And so how is making this I'm not even going to ask the question again. I'm so sorry if you are annoyed with my questioning of you, but my whole idea was that this is not something that we ought to single
Johnny,
out trans people for if it's something that other people are also affected by. Because singling out trans people, whether or not you agree with that,
Big
is
Johnny
something that
W.
harms us.
Okay. So that's fair. That is one ideology. I think it's actually reasonable for you to conclude to this because the issue is that it's the unknowable thing right now is the etiology of these things. Is body dysmorphia the same as dysphoria? Are these the same things? And the answer is we don't know. We don't know. So I think your conclusion is a reasonable one to come for. I just do think that it does hurt like political advocacy specifically because what it does is it bolsters. I can tell you what my conservative chat members are doing is they're being like, look, even the trans people agree that like it's all just nothing, it doesn't matter and we shouldn't provide it. And it's like I know that's not what you're saying. The issue is that like that is the implications that happen with these types of arguments. What I'm saying is I believe gender affirming care is what it's typically defined in by the institutions and the clinicians that have defined it as such. I'm open to it changing over time, but my understanding is it's essentially a range of supports, not just cosmetic and psychological, right, social, all sorts of things, medical interventions as well, not just surgeries as well. Sometimes it's just puberty blockers, sometimes it's just cross-sex hormones, right? Designed to support and affirm an individual's gender identity when it conflicts with the gender they were assigned at birth. That's what I believe gender affirming care to be, and that's
Okay.
what I believe is important. And when conservatives are opposed to this, the issue is that they are opposed to precisely this. They're opposed to women getting things like cross-sex hormones. So I understand the heart that you're saying of like, we don't want to be further otherized. And that's super fair. And I would also prefer that. But I want to make sure that it doesn't come at the cost of trans people losing complete access to their
It just seems like that provides them more cover if cis people get it too, though.
medical like interventionisms that they feel that they need.
Libertarian moment. Here we go. The real reason that this is even fucking controversial, this distinction that needs to be made, is because we treat this idea of care differently, both in tax money and both in the way that we decide whether or not something is a right. That is the real crux of the problem here. Setting aside gender affirming care for minors is this idea that we think, and you can disagree with whether or not it's right or wrong in terms of whether or not we should do this. But the reason that this is a problem is that healthcare is a service that should be voluntary and people should pay insurance that covers whatever it is that they specifically want. And what is really occurring here is that there is this idea that is a subtext of this conversation, which is that healthcare is a right, or that people have or that at some point in time people deserve some level of tax money or some level of aid for the things that we call care. And we like the idea of saying that trans healthcare meets whatever our arbitrary threshold is that turns something from cosmetic into this magical new thing, which is that it's care and it's somehow a magical right we've created, or that they magically deserve funds, or
You
they
just stopped saying
magically deserve something.
magically.
If we simply actually had a freedom-based liberty perspective, we would recognize that, yes, all of these forms of things are both services and they're all forms of care. And
Not gonna lie, I kind of like the phrase freedom-based liberty, liberty-based service. That's
that
pretty
people
cool.
can voluntarily choose to pay for them or fund them at their discretion. That is why this is actually contentious, this point of delineation, because it changes how we fund these things and whether or not we steal money from other people so that we can pay for these things.
Lactoid. I wanted to we'll end things soon. But Lactoid, with your question about
Sorry.
like the surgeries, I don't think that's something like you would necessarily have to worry about. I mean, I guess we can picture. I don't know, like we could. What was that? There was a. It's I'm blanking now on the name of the movie, but there was a movie in which like everyone who was born went through some sort of like genetic modification to be smarter.
Ooh,
Gattaca?
Gattaca, thank you. That was the one. Yeah.
I want to see that.
So I
That
can
sounds
see
interesting.
like maybe something like that happening, but for the most part, especially when we're talking about preferences, that's not how society goes. I mean, like the United States is a perfect example. I mean, we've had breast implant surgery for forever, like decades at this point, and it's not something that like everyone wants. It's not something that
Uh,
becomes necessarily normal. So I mean, some people want it,
but
but lots of
rates of
people
Russ,
like small like smaller breasts, like having smaller breasts. Um, like it seems like the range of preferences is so wide that you actually don't have to worry about that. Like
uh,
even go ahead.
I was just like, but rates of
Sure.
cosmetic surgery do appear to be increasing. But they might not be specifically like breast implants, but like vaginoplasties and rhinoplasty.
That's
Like
true.
there's a whole.
Yeah, but
I think
I think rhinoplasty is not nowhere near as cost prohibitive. It's more effective.
right. I think
I think that's
Wait, is
the breast
it almost sounds like there's it feels like some of the people on the panel are like kind of speaking through the frame that people have a general agreement that cosmetic surgeries are bad. That like aren't for some kind of underlining like mental health issue or something, which is weird.
implants are still expensive to get, whereas like as
Well, nose
Corey said,
job's like 3
rhinoplasty.
to 4,000, and tits are like 6 to 10.
well, so to respond, I do think that
And she had that number right on the
cosmetic surgery,
fly.
like breast implants, like I mean, they're relatively like well
I'd like to
done
hear
one.
Kilo
They're
more.
relatively recent.
I think
in
Kilo
the
has done
sense
really
of,
well.
I mean, I'm guessing it's not going back before the 70s. I mean, I don't know
I think that's around the time.
I don't know the full history, but regardless, like, I mean, when you look at,
And if none of you guys, if any of you guys didn't see it, Kilo really fucking took Prime to town in a vegan conversation they had. Basically, Prime decided to bite the bullet. It was fucking insane to me, and said it's okay to torture dogs. That's right. Primecayes said, yeah, it's okay for somebody to just torture a dog. Which there's no fucking way he believes that.
that being one, and then like more happening, more coming out, and then also the prevalency going up, and in certain areas, like again, like in South Korea, where it's so commonplace,
And younger and
ev-
younger, it appears.
younger and younger, and everyone's getting it. I think there is like a little bit maybe of like a runaway train effect here, where if only a couple people get it, like you don't have to get it to like be within like the norm of society. But if it gets to the point where like everybody is getting it, like there is an increasing pressure on the people who are not getting it to eventually get it, because the
Well,
more outside the
here's a
norm
better
you
example:
are,
It's the Mr. Girl makeup argument.
braces.
What?
potentially.
I think so many people now feel like if your kid has like jacked up looking teeth, despite the fact that it doesn't have like
Sure.
any effect, like parents almost feel duty bound at this point to like have their, like you're almost seen as like a bad parent if you
Very
don't get your
true.
kid braces.
Yeah, the rates of that are
It is shitty not to get braces. Braces aren't just fucking cosmetic. If your teeth are fucked up, shit can hurt. It can fuck you up later. Like, you gotta fix them early so that way they fucking grow, like the next set growing right and shit. I feel like that's a bad argument. If you need braces, you probably fucking need them. And sometimes it's cosmetic, I'm sure, but like, there's a pretty good deal of braces that aren't not just cosmetic. And I would even argue too that sometimes if they are just cosmetic, I've seen some fucked up teeth. Your life is definitely going to be worse because of how fucked up them teeth are. There's definitely going to be psychological aspects to it too that are worth consideration.
Are also skyrocketing, and we can see, like, look, one of the best arguments, I guess, both for plastic surgery, but also, I guess, maybe in this case, I'm going to use it against it, is people with severe facial deformities or like burn victims, like people who really fit outside the norm in terms of like looking a particular way or presenting a particular way,
And there's no good answer for them.
have like incredibly severe psychological and social and emotional ramifications. Like this group of people is by
What do you
far, like
mean?
if you want to look at like rates of like mental instability due to like physical like issues and or not dysphoria, stuff like that. I mean, that's the group of people that you look at to see some of the.
There is a good answer for them: surgery.
Because you have somebody who's really not fitting within the norm. And so if we get to the point where through like rhinoplasty and like face fillers and everything, where everybody looks like this, beauty is like everybody looks this way, and when you're born, like if you decide not to go through that, like you're going to be socially ostracized and isolated and rejected, like people with severe facial disfigurements do now. I mean, you're going to get the surgery. You have to. Otherwise,
it just sounds really psychologically harmful.
Can I ask? Or so because Scott,
I think it might just sound like I'm saying something silly to like meme or whatever, but like I think like if you're a burn victim, or even in some cases having really bad fucked up teeth, like it can like the social aspect is like a part of it, but like I really do think there's something to be said of like your appearance is so fucked that like ever having sex is just like off the fucking table for you. Like I think that's worth like actually giving some consideration to. If your face is all fucking burnt off and shit, and you have like half the skin on your face is like all Freddy Kruegerized, yeah, like I think it matters how people are gonna treat you, and like I think it's really bad for people's mental health to know that they're just like off the sexual market forever. God, yeah, really fuck you up. I think it's important.
Rob, a really interesting point. So like we're already in bonus time, so like if we have to like run, that's fine.
Points are double.
The points are double in bonus time. Okay, so just be clear, we've gone past like the stop time, but like I thought this is so interesting, so I really wanted to what everyone's opinions is. So if they keep it like brief, do you think that braces, right, like or not even just braces, because there's more than one way for like orthodontists to fix your teeth, but the trend to somehow fix a person's teeth to make it look straight and normal, do you think that that is somehow negative and should be discouraged because we are pushing people away from their natural state, and we should say, hey, your natural beauty, being with your teeth and whatever formation they are, that is more important, and we should get back to that. Let's go around. I want to start from Erudite. Erudite, what do you think about that?
Sorry, I literally have been tuned out for the last little bit. Can you just repeat the question?
Sure, no problem. Scott brought up braces as like a form of procedure that.
Okay, so what I really wanted to see was that part that they talked about with the cisgender affirming care. I'm pretty tired and I have to do some other stuff for work. I can't just like fill orders at my desk anymore. I gotta move around and do a bunch of shit, and it's not very it doesn't go well with streaming. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. That I don't want to read your username because I'm concerned that it might be close to your name or whatever, but chatter on YouTube, I appreciate all the things you said. That was really nice having this kind of like back and forth with you. It was really interesting. I hope that you do end up figuring out your shit so that you can join the Discord. and I look forward to talking to you. Thanks again to Kai for rating me. I'm gonna be on Kai's stream on Wednesday. He's having a panel about. I want to make sure I'm not misquoting it. The main topic is marriage laws and polyamorous families having legal protections. There's been in Massachusetts, they passed some laws to help give parents in a polyamorous family certain protections and rights, and I think that's fucking awesome. I think it's really good. It reminded me of a couple years ago, there was a triad who one of the people in it got pregnant, and all of the people in the relationship had parental rights of the kid, and I thought that was super fucking cool. Because I think that even if I was like, my wife and I were in like a really long-term relationship, I would with another woman, she should be able to like pick my kid up from school or whatever. That'd be fine. Hey Froggy, I didn't know you were here. Thank you, I appreciate it. Good night to you too. I equally enjoy the back and forth, if not more. Hopefully we can discuss religion. I would love to discuss religion with you. I would love to discuss religion with anybody. Goddamn. Now I'm excited. In fact, when we talk, feel free to bring it up at any point in time. I don't care. I'm always ready to talk about religion. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about. But yeah, I have Kai's. I have the community React stream. If you join the Discord, you can put any videos in there, and I'll watch them and talk about them. It seems like everybody just wants to share music with me, which is fine. It's not what I had in mind when I started it, but that's cool. People can put whatever they want in there. I just ask that you keep it to like an hour or less of a video, so that way make sure that there's room for other people to have their stuff in there too. If you're watching it on YouTube, please like the video or the stream. It helps, and if you're watching me on Twitch, give me a like. Both of these things I'm asking for free. And if you like this at all, usually my streams are a little bit more active than this. I don't too often just like watch on a stream, but this was a cool thing to do while I was working, and I figured I'm gonna watch this why not stream while I'm working, and I'm really glad that I did. I had some really good input from you guys. Otherwise, I think I'm gonna try to go on the hotline on Saturday, Mr. Girl's hotline. I need to talk to him about some major issues with the article. Oh wow, I'm glad you really liked the React streams. I appreciate it. I have to talk to Mr. Girl about the issues with the Destiny report. I didn't know about them for a while, and after being shown some stuff, there's some pretty big fucking issues that have to be addressed, and I don't know if he's going to address them. I know some other people have tried to talk about it, but when they did, I didn't have the context to understand why these things are like pretty big fucking deals. It's uncomfortable, and I gotta try. So Saturday hotline, Wednesday Kai, Friday React stream. There might be a stream tomorrow with Fauna, depending on like if I have anything going on when I wake up and shit. But if not, definitely nothing Thursday. Can't wait to see some good faith criticisms of Destiny report. I hope that they're met with answers. If not, it's a pretty big problem. It's not like, look, I think that a lot of these fucking streamers do a lot of fucked up shit that I don't like. I don't think that if, I didn't stop being a fan of Destiny's just because I fucking argued with them and had Mr. Girl's side on all like a lot of the shit in the Destiny report and things like leading up to it. So it's not like I'm not going to be a Mr. Girl's fan anymore, but I think that it's going to change. If I can't get any good answers, I think it's going to change the way I think about some stuff. It would inevitably have to. So, I guess it'll be a good thing to watch if you do or don't like Mr. Grill. I think that it's just like a positive for everybody for me to ask him that, and like more importantly, it's something I have to. I can't find out that stuff and not at least try. All right, yeah, I'm out of here. Thanks. Let's see if I can raid anybody. I don't know if there's anybody on to raid, but we can try. Oh, sure can. Say hi to Tuna. Right now.